With Atlanta's victory last night, the home team has now won 25 of the last 31 World Series games, including the last 8 in a row. So tonight, the Toronto Blue Jays look to end that streak and pull even in this series as they send David Cone out to the mound to make his first ever World Series appearance against John Smoltz.
It is clearly the story tonight, a marvelous matchup of two power pitchers. David Cone leading the major leagues in strikeouts for the 3rd consecutive year, and John Smoltz leading the National League in strikeouts with 215.
The starting lineup tonight for the Toronto Blue Jays. Devon White leads off in center field. Roberto Alomar is the second baseman. Batting third, and in left field tonight, Joe Carter. The cleanup hitter, right fielder Dave Winfield. John Olerud at first base, batting fifth. Batting sixth, the third baseman, Kelly Gruber. Pat Borders is behind the plate, hitting seventh. The shortstop, Manuel Lee, bats eighth. And batting ninth, the pitcher, David Cone.
John Smoltz 4-0 in postseason, 2-0 this year in the League Championship Series. And while he did not have a decision last year in the World Series against Minnesota, he did pitch very well, working 2 games, 14 1/3 innings, and giving up only 2 runs, striking out 11, and walking only 1.
And the first batter of game 2 is Devon White. He was 0 for 4 last night after a .348 batting average in the American League Championship Series. Big part of Tom Glavine's success last night was keeping the top 2 hitters in the Toronto batting order off the bases. White and Alomar went a combined 0 for 8. First pitch of game 2, a fastball in for strike 1.
As a matter of fact, White nor Alomar got a ball out of the infield last night.
And the breaking ball swung on and missed. Smoltz quickly ahead 0-2. And it's 11 championship series games over the last 2 years. They're off to a similar start tonight as White struck out on the pitch high and tight. Now Roberto Alomar. Bounce back to the mound on a hop, and Smoltz throws him out. Joe Carter, the batter. He provided the Blue Jays with their only run last night with a home run in the 4th inning off Tom Glavine. Breaking ball swung on and missed for strike 1.
The Braves right-handed pitchers will pitch Joe Carter and Dave Winfield the same way. They'll try to get him out inside, even though that pitch was away. Not all pitchers get hitters out the same way. Last night, Joe Carter hit a home run off Tommy Glavine trying to come inside to him. John Smoltz with various ways to get a hitter out,
including the strikeout with the breaking ball. 1, 2, 3 go the Blue Jays. 2 strikeouts in the inning for John Smoltz. Center fielder Otis Nixon leads off for the Atlanta Braves tonight. Deion Sanders gets his first postseason start in left field. Terry Pendleton, the third baseman, batting third. The cleanup hitter, right fielder David Justice. Sid Bream batting 5th at first base. The shortstop Jeff Blauser batting 6th tonight. Damon Berryhill, last night's hero, is catching and batting 7th. Mark Lemke, the second baseman, hits 8th, and batting 9th, the pitcher John Smoltz.
We mentioned how many ways John Smoltz had to get you out, and David Cone is similar. Fastball that he throws upstairs, it's got a little tailing motion to it. John Smoltz is a cross-seamer. His has a tendency to rise. Cone's a tendency to tail. But David Cone, along with Smoltz, has a good slider, probably his best pitch at this time.
Otis Nixon digs in. Those scores, the Braves come up for the first time in game 2. Otis started the first inning last night with a single through the middle on the first pitch thrown by Jack Morris. He went 1 for 3. And it's a strike as Nixon was taking all the way. David Wells, one of the Coneheads in the Toronto dugout. to left field. Charging hard Carter to make the catch. I think the fact that David Wells was wearing the cone head is indicative of the fact that David Cone quickly came to be well received by his new teammates. He's a very likable guy and really fit in with relative ease.
Traded for 2 organizational players on August 27th. And it's baseball's version of the Lend-Lease plan. Even though Toronto has first dibs on Cone after the season, he will, in all probability, declare free agency.
Deion Sanders takes his first World Series pitch ever to deep right field. Winfield to the wall to make the catch.
You may have noticed Deion Sanders was limping. He has had a broken bone in his left foot since March. It has not healed properly, and in all probability won't, because from baseball he'll go right back into football and have about a month off, and then spring training starts next year.
If Pendleton can keep the inning alive, David Justice would bat next. We saw the numbers for Cone against the Braves, 9-3 lifetime, but as he pointed out, a lot of pitchers ran up impressive records against Atlanta in 1987 and 88. That's when most of David's damage was done. Lee has to hurry. On the move, he throws him out by a running step. Each side goes in order in the first. After 1 inning in game 2, there is no score.
The DQ $10 Blizzard meal deal is here. A full meal with a mini Blizzard. Choose from the Blizzard Cup lineup, starring the Biscoff Cookie Blizzard. The $10 Blizzard meal deal. DQ. Happy tastes good.
Because sometimes we feel guilty. Give more love than humanly possible when you feed a Hill's scientifically proven formula. Because you're only human, there's Hill's.
Ron Smoltz is through what he thinks is the most difficult part of the night for himself. He says ordinarily he's too pumped up in the first inning. That cost him in game 7 of the LCS when the Pirates scored a run that almost stood up to be the game-winning run. Dave Winfield takes a fastball for strike 1. He was 1 for 3 last night with an infield hit. Now the 2-2 pitch. Struck him out with the breaking ball. 4 men have come to the plate for Toronto against John Smoltz, and 3 of them have struck out. John Olerud took a ball low and in. He's up for the first time in this World Series. He sat out last night as Joe Carter played first base and Candy Maldonado was in left field. Full count now.
That's an indication of how hard both pitchers are throwing on 2-3-1 counts. We have seen balls foul back the other way. That's when the hitter is looking for the fastball and still fouls it back the other way. Smoltz and Cone both throwing awfully hard.
And the breaking ball freezes Olerud. So after the 92-mile-per-hour fastball, Olerud caught looking at the breaking ball. 5 in a row retired by Smoltz to start the ball game. 2 away for Kelly Gruber, who fouled the first pitch back to the backstop. Gruber 0 for 3 last night, and now 0 for his last 18 in this postseason. Trying to strike out the side. He does with the breaking ball again. 6 Blue Jays have come to the plate against Smoltz. 5 of them have fanned after an inning and a half. No score. David Justice begins the bottom of the second. And that's ball 4. David Justice is the first base runner of the night. Sid Bream, in case you couldn't tell. The ball outside to Bream, who went 1 for 3 last night with a single. And he also walked and strikeouts have already been a factor tonight, but Sid Bream is not fanned yet in this 1992 postseason. Jeff Blauser is on deck. The 2-1 pitch. Well hit to center. Devon White sprinting back toward the track, and he is there to make the catch. Justice went all the way to second. The throw comes to first, not in time. And that'll bring up Jeff Blauser. Throughout the postseason, he has been the number 2 hitter in the Atlanta lineup. Tonight he's batting 6th. He was 0 for 4 last night. The runner takes off. The pitch is strike. The throw goes into center field. Justice will remain at second. The play was backed up by Devon White. Borders' throw to the right field side of the bag. It missed Roberto Alomar.
To be effective, the splitter must be down. You get a lot of wild pitches like that, but you also get a lot of balls that you can't be in a position to throw well with runners running. That's one of the reasons they steal so much on Cone. The catcher's not in good position to throw.
Slapped to short. Lee will try third. It hits the runner. Justice safe at third. Blauser aboard at first.
Bad play. Bad play. With 1 out, with nobody out, you can understand it. With 1 out, that's your second out at third base.
Now last night's offensive star for the Braves, Damon Berryhill, yet to have a hit in this ball game. The runner takes off from first. The pitch gets by Borders. Justice coming to the plate. And he is safe, and all the way to third goes Jeff Blauser. 1-0 Atlanta. Now the payoff pitch. Ball 4. Second walk in the inning thrown by Cone. Now Mark Lemke. 1 for 3 last night to keep his postseason batting average at .333. The infield back at double play depth now. And runners at the corners and 1 out. In the second inning, the Braves lead 1-0. Slap to short. Lee, nice play to his left. Double play ends the inning. And the Braves get just 1. After 2 innings, David Cone and the Blue Jays trail 1-0.
Burger King Canada has an elevated Whopper and new fries, so they invited fans and skeptics to try it.
Wow. Perfect flavor on this one. Very crispy. This is actually really good, man.
Get a Whopper meal for $8.49 only on Wednesdays.
Major League Baseball wishes to apologize to the people of Canada and to all baseball fans for the unintentional improper display of the Canadian flag during the national anthems. Prior to the start of tonight's World Series game, the color guard inadvertently displayed the flag upside down. It was totally unintentional, and Major League Baseball apologizes. So we go to the 4th, and Roberto Alomar leads off. He bounced back to the mound his first time up. The 3-0 offering is high, ball 4. Alomar bluffed towards second, and now that Berryhill can't find the ball and went after it rather lackadaisically, Alomar takes second. Had Berryhill fielded that, they might have had Alomar trapped between first and second. Popped up, Pendleton. 1 out. And Winfield helping to get Gaston into the World Series as a manager for the first time. Little squibber out in front of the plate. Smoltz, not much of a throw, but he got it there in time to get Winfield for the second out. On the play, Roberto Alomar took third. John Olerud, the batter. Here is the pitch in the dirt. Here comes Alomar. Berryhill to Smoltz, and he is out at the plate. Rich Hacker, the third base coach, keeps Alomar away from Mike Riley, and Cito Gaston is hot.
We talked of the wild pitch. Berryhill allows it to trickle away from him. He gets it back to Smoltz, and we'll see if he's safe.
Yes, he is safe.
Easily, not even close.
The hand gets the corner of the plate before the tag is on the arm of Alomar. Still 1-0 Atlanta. Back in a moment. A full count on the leadoff hitter here in the 4th inning, Sid Bream. And ball 4 didn't miss by much. Bream aboard to start the inning on the 4th walk thrown by David Cone. Bream takes off on the 3-1 pitch. It's lined into right field. Bream does not stop around second. He's into third ahead of the throw. First and third and nobody out for Atlanta in the 4th inning. Cone could certainly use a strikeout. Instead, it's a line drive to right. Winfield coming on to make the catch. Bream won't try it. He came about 15 feet down the line and then put the brakes on. So 1 out now and still runners at first and third here in the 4th inning as Atlanta tries to build on a 1-0 lead. Lemke with a slow ground ball. Alomar can't play it. Bream has scored. Blauser heads to third. 2-0 Atlanta. Certainly a lot going on in this situation. Signs being relayed on both sides. That slapped to short, a one-hopper. Lee turns the double play with ease. So the Braves get 1, but it could have been worse for David Cone. After 4, 2-0 Atlanta. 0-2 on the Toronto first baseman, who has never played a day in the minor leagues. He came right to the major leagues with the Blue Jays off the campus of Washington State University. Very high and deep, but with room. David Justice at the edge of the warning track.
John Smoltz traded from the Detroit Tigers. As a matter of fact, he's from Detroit.
Down to third, bobbled by Pendleton. He recovers and throws him out. 3-2 pitch. Missed low with the fastball, and the Blue Jays have their third base runner of the night on the second walk thrown by Smoltz. Little broken bat looper that will drop. Borders to second, and he'll stop there. So Manuel Lee delivers the second hit of the night for Toronto, and now they have the tying run aboard. The runners go. Cone lines it into center field, a hit. Borders is being waved in. Nixon's throw is cut off. Throw to second, goes into center field. Lee hobbling toward third. He is hurt. Cone into second. It's 2-1 Atlanta. David Cone is 2 for 2. David Cone, the first American League pitcher with 2 hits in a World Series game since Mickey Lolich in Game 2 in 1968 with the Tigers. Lemke has to hurry. White runs well. He bobbled it. Save at first. Tie game as Lee has scored from third.
This series has gone from long ball to short ball. An RBI single for White. Watch the bobble, the momentary hesitation by Lemke. He reaches in. He came up with glove and not ball, and the throw is late. White safe.
Now the go-ahead runners at third. 2-2 the score, with runners at the corners and 2 outs for Roberto Alomar. Alomar walked his last time up. To short. Nice play by Blauser as the ball bounced up at the last moment. That ends the inning. The Blue Jays get 2 to tie. Midway through game 2, 2-2 the score.
It's back and more delicious than ever. A crispy chicken sandwich made with
Bun chicken, lettuce, mayo, bun chicken, lettuce, mayo, bun chicken, lettuce, mayo, bun chicken, lettuce, mayo.
Tim's crispy chicken sandwich. A new take on an old fave.
Because sometimes we feel guilty. Give more love than humanly possible when you feed a Hill's scientifically proven formula. Because you're only human, there's Hill's.
David Cone has referred to himself as a hired gun, a rent-a pitcher, as Toronto acquired him in late August. try to solidify their pitching staff heading down the home stretch of the race in the AL East as they held off the Orioles and Brewers. Got him. Nixon frozen for the first out of the fifth, and that's just the second strikeout of the night for Cone, who fanned 261 batters during the regular season. Well hit to right. A base hit for Sanders. He's now 7 for 12 lifetime against David Cone.
And here he's been on base twice.
And running. The pitch at ball. The throw. One hopper gets away from Lee. Sanders heads to third. And again, he's hobbling as he arrives at third base. On the 3-2 pitch. Way outside, ball 4. So that sets up the inning-ending double play possibility. Cone has already escaped 2 jams via an inning-ending double play. David Justice walked and scored the first run of the ball game in the second. He flied to right in the third. Time called. Pitching coach Galen Cisco is on his way to the mound, buying some time for the bullpen that just got started. The right-hander Todd Stottlemyre, the lefty David Wells. Both Wells and Stottlemyre appeared in the game last night. The 2-0 pitch. Chopped by Alomar. The Braves go back on top 3-2. Winfield juggled the ball a bit. Sanders scored. The throw comes all the way into the plate. But Pendleton had stopped at third. It's a base hit and an RBI for David Justice. 3-2 Atlanta. Cito Gaston is on his way to the mound. And it's the second trip of the inning. He has summoned David Wells, the lefty, with the left-handed hitting Sid Bream due up.
And the Toronto Blue Jays will try to right their ship with the left-hander David Wells. He was in last night's ball game. He worked the 8th inning, walking 1, striking out 1, giving up no runs and no hits. And Bobby Cox has countered Cito Gaston's move.
Now that Gaston has brought the lefty into the ball game, Cox has countered by calling Sid Bream back and sending Brian Hunter up to pinch hit. The 0-1 to Hunter. Well hit to right field. On the run, Winfield toward the line to make the running catch. Pendleton coming to the plate, and he scores as the throw goes towards second. It's 4-2 Atlanta.
Bowser with a home run off Doug Drabek in the National League Championship Series. It's a good time to give him the green light.
Looked like he had it. He started to pull the trigger, but thought better of it with the ball low and away. He walks on 4 pitches. The first walk thrown by Wells, the 5th issued by Toronto pitching tonight. Wells working very slowly. Now the 2-2 pitch. He struck him out with the fastball over the inside part of the plate. That ends the inning. The Braves lead 4-2 and will return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this word from your local station.
Party's over.
But I've still got Twizzlers.
Whoa, whoa. Party on!
Twizzlers, keep the fun going.
It all started with that new Leon sale. I haven't seen him smile this much since our wedding night.
Put on your deal face with huge savings store-wide.
We also offer free local delivery.
Leon's, that's comfortable.
Staying active means my independence and my freedom. And that's where Kintec comes in. They listened, they were attentive, and they were able to provide solutions. Kintec enabled me to have longevity in the things that I enjoy doing.
Go forth, feline friends. Find your people who rely on us every day Strength, softness, and comfort for millions of Canadians. Royale, there for all.
Business doesn't wait for someday, and neither do we. As Canadians, we know it's not just your business, it's your future, and it matters. It's a foundation your neighbors depend on and supports the life you're building. Wherever you are in Canada, Merchant Growth backs your small business dreams with financing that fits your business's reality. Because when your business grows, Canada grows with you. Merchant Growth, proud to fuel what's next.
Push back on your tough pain. Introducing new Tylenol Dual Action Acetaminophen plus Ibuprofen. Relieve aches and pains and reduce pain caused by inflammation in one effective solution. Dual Action for your tough pain.
Mark Lemke single scoring Sid Bream made it 2-0 for Atlanta in the fourth inning. The Blue Jays tied it with 2 runs with 2 outs in the fifth, including an RBI single by David Cone. But Atlanta answered immediately with 2 runs on 2 hits in its half of the fifth. And we still stand at 4-2 into the 8th inning.
If Smoltz wins this game, it will be the second complete game victory for the Braves.
White to center, the routine fly for Nixon. 1 out in the 8th inning. And a capacity crowd on hand, 51,763. The official attendance tonight for Game 2 of the World Series. There's a base hit heading for the left field corner for Roberto Alomar. Sanders gets it back in, and Alomar stops at second with a 1-out double. So he has his first hit of the World Series. Up the middle, a base hit. Carter didn't hit hard, but he got it through. Alomar had to hold up to see if the ball would be caught. So he moves to third. Now the tying run is aboard at first, and the go-ahead run will come to the plate with Winfield to bat next.
Interesting situation right here. But so far, Bobby Cox elects to stay with John Smoltz, and you can't blame him. He's still throwing very, very well.
Well, the hit by Alomar was an opposite field hit along the line and left, and Carter's didn't have much on it, but got through. And a lot of pitches in 4 postseason starts for John Smoltz.
Smoltz pitch. Ground ball hit to the right side, skipping through into right field, a base hit. Alomar scores. Carter comes to third to throw the slide. He's in there to beat it. Winfield with an RBI single. And Atlanta's lead is cut to 1 at 4-3. And here comes manager Bobby Cox. Dave Winfield, with that hit, has doubled his World Series output 11 years ago with the New York Yankees.
Standing ovation for Smoltz as he departs. Winfield's first RBI in this World Series knocks him out. Winfield had only 1 RBI in the 81 World Series. We're back in a moment. The Blimp looking down on a thriller in Game 2 of the 1992 World Series. The Blue Jays have scored a run here in the 8th inning to cut the lead to 1 for Atlanta. John Olerud at the plate with the tying run at third. The go-ahead run at first with 1 out in the 8th inning. Mike Stanton's first pitch is popped up. Terry Pendleton in. 2 outs in the 8th inning. Stanton has never allowed a hit with a runner in scoring position in postseason competition, as you saw. They are 0 for 17 against him in this situation. But he won't have a chance to continue that streak, as Jeff Reardon will be the new pitcher when we come back. Moments ago at the Blue Jay dugout, Kelly Gruber discussing the situation with Cito Gaston, with hitting coach Larry Heisel on the right. Situation is simple. The tying run is at third. The go-ahead run at first with 2 outs in the 8th. Jeff Reardon's first pitch fouled straight back. But Bobby Cox, in making the change of pitchers, playing the percentages and getting the right-handed Reardon on Gruber, a right-handed hitter. But Cox is undoubtedly aware of the numbers. Gruber 6 for 12 lifetime against Reardon, including a home run.
Plus, you're not seeing the Jeff Reardon that the Blue Jays have been facing in past years, the all-time saves leader. But he is not the pitcher, obviously, that he was for the Boston Red Sox earlier, or the Minnesota Twins, or the Montreal Expos.
And while he's had an up-and-down ride all season long, Stanton's been unhittable in postseason play. Kelly Gruber's been hitless in his last 21 postseason at-bats. And in the hole here, 1-2 is Kelly Gruber. The fans trying to help Reardon out of the jam. 1 run is scored for the Blue Jays in the 8th inning. 4-3 Atlanta. Toronto with runners at first and third and 2 outs. Strike 3, borderline pitch at best on the inside corner, and Gruber can't believe it.
Gruber thought the ball was inside. Could have been. But Reardon gets the call, and Atlanta maintains the lead.
And Gruber now shares the all-time record for consecutive hitless at-bats in a single postseason, 22. Back in a moment. Brian Hunter batting against the new Toronto hurler, the 4th pitcher of the night for the Jays, Dwayne Ward. Hunter came up as a pinch hitter for Sid Bream and delivered a sacrifice fly to drive in a run in the 5th. Ward, a native of New Mexico and the former Atlanta Brave. Atlanta holding on to a 1-run lead, 4-3. The Braves have been out hit 8-5. That's a smash. Gruber continues to play excellent defense. 1 out in the 8th inning. Jeff Reardon likely to come on in the 9th inning, at least to start the inning, although Mark Wohlers is warming up.
Blauser and Dwayne Ward's teammates in the minor leagues for the Braves.
Not a nice way to treat your teammate. Blauser strikes out for the 2nd out of the inning and the first strikeout of the night for Dwayne Ward. Mike Timlin is warming up in the Blue Jay bullpen. Blue Jays have about as good a setup man and closer combination as you can have in Major League Baseball, with Ward setting up Henke so well all year long. And he blew away Berryhill. 2 strikeouts in the inning. 1, 2, 3 go the Braves. We go to the 9th. Borders, Lee, and Ward do up. Atlanta leads by a run.
It's Dollar Drink Summer at McDonald's. Get a small fountain drink or a small iced coffee for just $1 each plus tax all summer long. Dollar Drink Summer, only at McDonald's.
New Balance, we got now.
The Government of Canada is bringing down your costs so you can get ahead. With the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, eligible Canadians will save up to $1,890 per family in the first year alone. We're also suspending the federal fuel excise tax on gasoline and diesel to help bring down gas costs this summer. Because a more affordable Canada is a stronger Canada. Learn more at canada.ca/gettingahead.
Defender. Add a large helping of sand. Mix in some rocks. Freeze to -40 for several days. Then soak in 900 millimeters of water. Bake at 50 degrees. Finally, serve on a plateau of your choosing.
Braves 4, the Blue Jays 3 as we go to the top of the 9th. Toronto at the bottom third of its order coming up. Borders, Lee, and Cole, the pitcher Ward scheduled for Cito Gaston, and there's what Cito has available on his bench as potential pinch hitters. He already has sent Derek Bell into the on-deck circle as Borders lines one to right, and Justice is there. 1 pitch and 1 out. Rafael Belliard is into the ball game for Atlanta at shortstop as they shore up their defense. With Manuel Lee due, Derek Bell is the pinch hitter. Lee went 1 for 3 tonight with a single and a run scored. Bell hit .242 during the regular season with 2 homers and 15 runs batted in 61 games. Reardon with a fastball that just missed outside. Ed Sprague has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher Ward. One ball and 1 strike. Jeff Reardon, Major League Baseball's all-time save leader, facing a man who hasn't appeared much in the postseason. Bell got into only 2 games without an official at bat in the LCS against Oakland. Reardon at age 37, the oldest Brave, pitching in the postseason for his 4th team. Bell shoots it back in our direction.
That ball was hittable there. He missed that pitch.
Two balls and 2 strikes.
The only appearance of Derek Bell in the ALCS was as a pinch runner.
And as you saw, he didn't even pinch hit much during the regular season. That's out of play. First base side, still 2-2. By pitching in the postseason for 4 different teams, Montreal, Minnesota, Boston, and now Atlanta, Jeff Reardon has tied Doyle Alexander's Major League record postseason appearances with the most teams. Whoa. Bell laid off an off-speed pitch that was very close. It has certainly been an eventful night for home plate umpire Mike Riley. Now the payoff pitch. Fouled away.
Another one just missed. When a hitter is on a pitch like that, they foul it straight back. So Derek Bell has just missed 2 fastballs from Reardon.
Ball 4, low and away. Reardon went to the fastball and missed. And now the tying run is aboard at first base with 1 out in the top of the 9th inning. Bell with decent speed, 7 stolen bases in only 61 games during the regular season. And now Ed Sprague to bat for the pitcher Ward. He was 1 for 2 with a single in the league championship series against Oakland. Both of his at-bats in the playoffs were as a pinch hitter.
Pitch to Sprague. It's a drive. It's deep left field. It's way back. It's gone. Home run, Ed Sprague, on the first pitch that he sees from Jeff Reardon. And this game has been turned right around as the Blue Jays will take the lead. Sprague hitting the plate, and the Blue Jays lead it 5-4 in Atlanta. Ed Sprague coming off the bench to pull the trigger on the first offering from Jeff Reardon, and he goes deep over the left field wall. A brand new ball game in Atlanta, and the Blue Jays are a step closer to coming home even Steven, as we said. The batter now is Devon White, with the Blue Jays ahead 5-4, 1 down in the inning. And Debo looks like he wanted to bunt it, looks it over inside, ball 1.
Tom, how about a World Series game? A World Series game where a veteran faces 2 kids for the last 2 outs, and the kids come through.
As White bounces one down to first, Hunter slipped, but gets the tag on White. Ed Sprague's wife, Kristen Babb Sprague, won a gold medal at the Summer Olympics in solo synchronized swimming. Obviously, it was a great moment for him. Unfortunately, she won the gold medal because of a judging error made by a judge from Brazil involving a competitor from Canada. Sylvie Frechette had the mistake in the judging not been made and the wrong score not punched in, Sylvie Burchett of Canada would have won the gold medal. But the mistake was made. They could not correct it, and Ed Sprague's wife won the gold medal, and that was the source of some controversy in Canada.
There was no error in judgment on that home run. Clearly out of the ballpark. What a big moment in that young man's life. His dad, a pitcher for Oakland, Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Milwaukee.
And certainly every Canadian is happy for Ed Sprague tonight. 5-4. Toronto has the lead for the first time tonight. You mentioned Ed Sprague, senior. He was on the Reds roster in 1972, but did not play in the World Series. Alomar pops up a bunt try. Lemke fields it. And that ends the inning. But the two-run homer by Sprague has given Toronto the lead. Lemke, the pitcher, and Nixon do up for Atlanta in the bottom of the ninth.
It's back and more delicious than ever. A crispy chicken sandwich made with
Bun chicken, lettuce, mayo, bun. Bun chicken, lettuce, mayo, bun. Bun chicken, lettuce, mayo. Bun chicken, lettuce, mayo.
Tim's crispy chicken sandwich. A new take on an old fave.
This is a bank. It holds your money, but does it pay you? At Service, we share our profits every year. The more you bank with us, the more we share with you. Your mortgage, your loans, your investments, your credit cards, even your daily banking. Everything you do at Service leads to a bigger share of our profits. See how much you could earn at service.ca. Isn't it time to feel good about your money? Service Credit Union.
Mama, what's a Dare Veggie Crisps?
Oh, I'm Dare Veggie Crisps. I'm a little bit of all the things. Veggies, crackers, and chips. Vegify your snack time with Dare Veggie Crisps.
Made with real veggies!
Sprague's pinch hit two-run homer has given Toronto a 5-4 lead. As we go to the bottom of the ninth with Tom Henke on, the closer of the Blue Jays, trying to save it. Mark Lemke to lead off. Then the pitchers do. The on-deck circle is empty at the moment. Lemke 1 for 3 with an RBI single tonight. Henke's first pitch is strike.
In postseason play, Tom Henke is 2-0 with 3 saves and a 1.65 earned run average.
And encompasses all of his postseason experience, and you saw his numbers from this year's League Championship Series against Oakland. He is quickly ahead of Lemke 0-2. Alfredo Griffin is into the ball game at shortstop. A pinch hit for Manuel Lee in the top of the ninth. In the dirt. This is what Bobby Cox has available to him on the bench, and he has already sent Lonnie Smith into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher, Jeff Reardon. There's Smith. Two and two. Just as Cabrera was an unlikely hero in Game 7 of the playoffs for Atlanta, Sprague an unlikely hero at the moment for Toronto, but they still must survive the bottom of the ninth. Lemke has battled off the 0-2 hook to a full count. Reardon plagued by long balls in the last couple of years of his career, and again tonight, Lemke bounced that one foul.
That home run by Ed Sprague was only the second home run in postseason play. Only the second pinch hit home run in postseason play to take a team from losing to winning. The other one in the 1988 World Series Game 1, Dennis Eckersley giving up the two-run homer to Kirk Gibson to win it for the Dodgers.
Lemke, a shallow fly ball to left for Joe Carter. One out. And if the Blue Jays hang on and win this one, the performance of the bullpen tonight should not be overlooked. The last hit for the Braves came off David Hone back in the 5th inning. David Justice with the RBI single for Bobby Cox. Cox has Lonnie Smith at the plate. He hasn't put the ball in play in 3 career at-bats against Henke. Well hit, but well fouled down in the Toronto bullpen.
Not too many right-handed batters put the ball in play and hit it hard against Henke. Only 1 hit in the last 28 at-bats for right-handed batters in postseason play against Tom Henke.
5-4 Toronto with 1 out, and the bases empty in the 9th, and that hit Lonnie Smith. The fans boo, but certainly that's the last thing Tom Henke wanted to do, is put the potential tying run on base and bring the winning run to the plate. Tom Henke did not hit a single batter during the regular season. Ron Gant comes in to run for Lonnie Smith.
And the plot thickens. Ron Gant with 9 consecutive stolen bases in postseason play. Make that 10.
With a stolen base last night for Gant.
If you're Ron Gant at first base and you're thinking about running, and you got to assume that he is, then you want to pick a split finger fastball on which to run. So unusually, I would imagine he will wait for Nixon to get in the hole, either 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, or run on the first pitch.
The first pitch is slapped to center field. And Devon White makes the catch. 2 away in the 9th inning. The Blue Jays 1 out away from evening the series at 1 apiece. Jane Fonda hoping for divine intervention for the Braves. They've already had 1 miracle this week. Wouldn't you know that Deion Sanders would come up when it means most. He's 1 for 3 tonight. He singled and scored in the 5th inning. He's also walked and stolen 2 bases tonight. Gant, the pinch runner at first. 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, 5-4 Toronto. And as Henke eyed Ron Gant at first base, Sanders backed out. Off the end of the bat, a cue shot toward the Toronto dugout. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Certainly a tough task for Sanders. He's been dividing his time the last couple of months between football and baseball. And as a result, tonight's start is just his 3rd for Bobby Cox in the last 42 Braves games. The 1-1 pitch. Chopped foul. And now the Braves are down to their final strike in game 2.
I think you can look for Gant to be running here. There is a reluctance to run when, if you're thrown out, that's the last out. I think that's the reason that Gant hasn't tried to steal up to this point. But with the count 1 and 2, if I'm Bobby Cox, I send him right now.
Will Henke come with a fastball or forkball? It was the forkball, and Sanders got a piece of it to stay alive at 1 and 2. Almost incredible silence here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium in anticipation of the 1-2 pitch. Here it is. And again, Sanders just got it off the end of the bat toward the Blue Jay dugout to stay alive. Another 1-2 pitch. Low and in. 2 balls and 2 strikes. If Sanders can keep the Braves alive, Terry Pendleton would bat next. Now the 2-2 pitch. Slapped away. So Dion has managed to get a piece of the forkball and the good fastball from Henke. This will be the 8th pitch to Deion Sanders with Gant running. It's ball 3. And Borders did not attempt to throw to second with the ball in the dirt. So now the tying run is in scoring position with 2 outs, and Sanders has battled to a full count.
Now Kelly Gruber, who was on the line, gets off the line because a base hit ties the score. You don't want to protect against a double in this situation. Olerud is more on the line. He should be toward the fatter part of the field. Gruber is toward the fatter part of the field, moved off the line. There's no sense in protecting against a double here.
Now the 3-2 pitch. Just missed.
And now Terry Pendleton's up there. Much more experience. And remember, he led the National League in hits with runners in scoring position this year. A .387 batting average. And here it is.
Led all of the major leagues, did Pendleton. Lou Whitaker of Detroit was second, and the Blue Jays' Roberto Alomar 4th. So Pendleton will come up with the tying run at second, the winning run at first, at excellent speed on the base paths, with Gant the runner at second and Sanders at first. Galen Cisco out to the mound. Certainly the Blue Jays will sink or swim here in the bottom of the 9th with Tom Henke.
What makes Pendleton so difficult in these situations is his ability to hit any pitch. He can dig a ball off the ground. He can hammer it helmet high, outside, inside. Great plate coverage for a little man.
Toronto leads 5-4. They took the lead on a pinch hit 2-run homer in the top of the 9th by Ed Sprague. First and second with 2 down for Atlanta in the bottom of the 9th, and Pendleton with a little pop-up. Kelly Gruber in the foul ground. He has it. And the Blue Jays have evened this series at 1 win apiece. Ed Sprague, the unlikely hero tonight. His wife won a gold medal earlier this summer. And tonight, Ed Sprague won over the hearts of every Canadian. Thank you, Jim. The starting lineup tonight for the Atlanta Braves: Otis Nixon in center field, Deion Sanders in left field, Terry Pendleton batting third at third base. The cleanup hitter, David Justice, Lonnie Smith, the DH, Sid Bream at first base, Jeff Blauser, the shortstop, Damon Berryhill, the catcher, and Mark Lemke, the second baseman, bats ninth. Juan Guzman ready to throw the first World Series pitch ever outside the United States. First pitch of Game 3 lifted to center field. Nixon's fly ball handled by Devon White. 1 pitch and 1 out in Canada.
The defense for the Toronto Blue Jays, Candy Maldonado will be the left fielder. There's Candy. Devon White in center field. Joe Carter, his 3rd different position in 3 games. Kelly Gruber at third base, Manuel Lee at short, Roberto Alomar at second, John Olerud at first base, and Pat Borders behind the plate.
And Deion Sanders at the plate. Dion started game 2 and went 1 for 3. He swings away at the first pitch and sent it out of play, third base side. Sanders a single and a run scored in game 2. He also walked twice and stole 2 of the 5 bases swiped by Atlanta.
Those 2 stolen bases by Deion Sanders, the first time a Brave had stolen 2 bases in one game since 1914. Of course, they were then the Boston Braves. That's in postseason play, of course.
Now the 0-2 pitch. Little looper into shallow right center on the run. Carter couldn't get it. It's backed up by White, and Deion Sanders limps around first again. He's 2 for 4 in the World Series. Joe West of the National League is the home plate umpire. Dan Morrison at first base. Bob Davidson at second. John Shulock of the American League at third. Jerry Crawford along the left field line, and Mike Riley, who was booed lustily, is the right field line umpire. He was booed upon the introductions of the umpires tonight. Now Terry Pendleton trying to find his mark in the postseason. He hit just .233 in the league championship series against the Pirates and is 1 for 8 in the World Series. Sanders off with the first pitch. Borders. One hopped it, and Sanders is safe. Sanders got a good jump, but for one of the few times in this series, Borders had a pretty good pitch with which to throw him out.
He had a good pitch to handle, and Sanders with an excellent jump going in feet first. The other night he went in head first twice. There's that pitch right around the chest for Borders to handle, but a one-hopper. And Sanders with his 3rd stolen base of the series.
13 consecutive stolen bases for the Atlanta Braves in the postseason. Pendleton chops it down to first. John Olerud wins the race to the base for the second out. Sanders to third. So that's a new major league record. 13 consecutive stolen bases by one team in the postseason. The Dodgers had 12 consecutive steals against the Mets and the Athletics in 1988. Now David Justice, the cleanup hitter. 1 for 5 in the World Series, but he has walked 3 times.
This is a good move right here. Guzman working from the stretch. By doing that, you alleviate Sanders bothering you. If he works from the windup, Sanders would go up and down the line. And Juan Guzman is subject, like a lot of Blue Jay pitchers, to the wild pitch. He had 14 this year.
Again, the Blue Jays employ the shift in the infield for Justice. The shortstop Lee on the right side.
One of the reasons for the shift, David Justice this year, 78 of his hits were to right field, 17 to center field, and only 22 the other way.
He's ahead in the count, 2-0. That's a strike on the corner, 2-1.
However, of those 22 hits the other way, most of them were in the air. So the charts of the Blue Jays, like the charts of the National League teams, say that David Justice, if he hits the ball in the air, he could go the other way. But if he hits it on the ground, he'll pull it.
Now the 2-1. He was trying to pull that one despite the shift. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Sanders at third with 2 down to the top of the first. This is game 3 of the World Series. The series tied at 1 win apiece. And this crowd, which has been criticized in the past for being too quiet, has been electric from moment 1 tonight. And even more so now. Guzman out of the inning with the strikeout. After half an inning, the Braves nothing, and the Blue Jays coming up.
At Wayfair, delivery and setup can be as easy as, well, doing nothing. Room of choice delivery and fast expert setup.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
When you live with diabetes, confidence comes from knowing your glucose levels and where they're headed. Manage your diabetes with confidence with Dexcom G7.
At Wayfair, delivery and setup can be as easy as, well, doing nothing. Room of choice delivery and fast expert setup.
That was fast.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
She hold on tight, the way how she dance, she's so untight. She fling it on the left, then right, right, left, then right.
Start banking with RBC and get the new iPad. Your idea of creative budgeting happens here.
The Toronto Sky Dome, the first retractable dome anywhere.
On part 2 of The Blue Jays Way, a new era begins with heightened expectations.
We knew we just had to have that one something to get over that hump and make it to the World Series.
And a shocking twist.
You're not serious. We're going to start with Freddie McGriff for Joe Carter?
Come on. What is this setting up for?
The Blue Jays Way, this Sunday after the game, only on Sportsnet, or stream it on Sportsnet Plus.
No score as the Blue Jays come up in the bottom of the first inning with Devon White leading off in center field. Roberto Alomar, the second baseman. Joe Carter in right field tonight hitting third. The cleanup hitter, DH Dave Winfield. John Olerud bats fifth at first base. Candy Maldonado, the left fielder. Kelly Gruber, the third baseman, batting seventh. Hitting eighth, the catcher Pat Borders. And the shortstop Manuel Lee bats ninth.
Steve Avery during the postseason against the Pirates in the National League Championship Series allowed 8 runs and 13 hits in 8 innings, striking out only 3. A pretty good performance his first time out, and really shelled his second time out. Game 5 of the NLCS when the Pirates scored a bunch after 1/3 of an inning. That's all he lasted, his last outing as a starter.
He also appeared in relief in Game 7. Devon White, only 1 for 9 in the World Series. Batting in the bottom of the first and bouncing the first pitch down to third. Pendleton was in front of the bag and throws him out.
The defense for Atlanta, Deion Sanders, the left fielder. Otis Nixon in center field can track them down with the best of them. David Justice, a strong throwing arm in right field. Harry Pendleton at third base. Jeff Blauser, the shortstop. The quick hands of Mark Lemke at second base. And the sure hands of Sid Bream at first. Damon Berryhill behind the plate. And Avery on the mound.
And working too, Roberto Alomar. Ball 1 in the dirt. It skipped by the catcher Berryhill. Roberto just 1 for 8 in the World Series off his MVP performance in the American League Championship Series against Oakland. Check swing and a ball low and away, 2-0. And that's on the corner. The lack of production from White and Alomar to this point in the World Series, a big surprise the last 2 years in the playoffs. They've combined to hit 400. Berryhill coming back without a play.
Not only great postseason production out of the 1 and 2 slots of Toronto, but Devon White and Roberto Alomar started 140 games this year, and in only 1 did they not, between them, have a hit or a walk.
Off-speed pitch on the corner. Alomar called out on strikes. He had to look at Joe West, the home umpire, but didn't say anything. 2 down in the bottom of the first. There is no score.
After fastball, 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 in comes the curveball. The first time that Alomar sees this pitch, and he gives up on it, and clearly it caught the corner.
Two down and the base is empty for Joe Carter. He's 2 for 7. He hit a home run in Game 1 off Tom Glavine. And tonight he makes history as one of the 3 players who has started a game in the World Series at 3 different positions. He started 3 games, all 3 of them in a different spot in 1992.
And Tony Kubek and Willie McCovey in 1962 did not start those games consecutively. Joe Carter, the first guy to play 3 different positions consecutively, starting the World Series.
And the 0-2 pitch to him. Late swing and a wicked foul ball off the protection area for the photographers.
That was a fastball swing and a curveball look. He's thinking curveball, swinging fastball.
Another 0-2 from Avery. That's low. Berryhill couldn't squeeze that one.
Barry Pendleton way off the line at third base. I think the Braves will probably stay away from Carter.
They do.
They came inside the other night. Tommy Glavine. There was no pitch, number one. There's no pitch you can't throw any hitter. You can throw any hitter anything. But Joe Carter, the probabilities are better on the inside pitch.
Routine fly to center. And Otis Nixon ends the inning. The Blue Jays go in order. After 1 at the Sky Dome, there is no score.
Your best defense against erosion and cavities is strong enamel. Nothing beats it. Pro Enamel Active Shield actively strengthens the enamel to defend against erosion and cavities. I think that this product is a game changer for my patients. It really works.
Let's go!
Boss, you're gonna want to see this.
I bet you gonna be dancing when you find out just what you got. Hello, Sydney. It's so hot. It's so hot.
It's not always easy to switch off. I'll be right next to you.
Hot, hot, hot. It's so hot.
Wow. Tonight we celebrate.
It's so hot. It's so hot.
So who we play?
Local crew. They haven't lost since 1996.
Scott Beckham.
Didn't matter who showed up. They owned that pitch. They say Zidane didn't speak for a week.
Still waiting to figure this out? End the waiting game. Felix connects you with a doctor online, so you can get a weight loss treatment plan that's right for you. Get started for free at felix.ca. Felix, we'll see you now.
Nothing but zeros along the line as we go to the 4th, and Sanders leads off. Dion, the only Atlanta base runner to this point, again making Bobby Cox look like the smart man that he is. Dion singled into right center field, stole second, and was stranded at third when Justice struck out with 2 outs. Fastball in for a strike. 0-2 on prime time. Late swing and a foul off to the left. It must have been aimed at a 49er fan in the third base box seats.
What's that old song? Don't get around much anymore.
And that's why 96 miles per hour.
That's right. Nobody gets around much anymore on that pitch.
That's in the dirt. 1-2 on Sanders.
And that was the slider that we've been talking about. It's a devastating pitch. And what distinguishes Guzman's slider from most, watch the downward action of it. Most sliders break parallel to the ground, not Guzman's. He gets on top of it, cuts through it, and it has a sinking in sliding effect.
1-2 pitch. Little squibber back to the mound. Guzman bare hands, and the throw is high. Nice play by Olerud. Prevent that one from bouncing around in foul ground. So Sanders is on again, and we'll await the scoring.
power pitchers like Guzman, when they finish winding up, look at the wind up and the carry over, carry him toward first base. By the time he recovers, he barehands it and throws high to first base. Olerud, a nice play. I would think it's a base hit, but it's kind of tough for a pitcher with that kind of power to unravel those arms and legs and everything and get back to field the ball like that.
It has been scored a hit for Deion Sanders. So the Braves have 2 hits and they both belong to Sanders. He stole second after reaching in the first inning. The opponents have now stolen 24 bases against the Blue Jays in this postseason in 8+ games, all of them at the expense of Pat Borders, who has only thrown out 2 base runners. Terry Pendleton at the plate, and he waits as again Sanders draws a throw. Pendleton bounced to first, unassisted, his first time up. He's 1 for 8 in the series now, but Bobby Cox says he's not worried about Pendleton being in a slump. He's capable of breaking out of it at a moment's notice with 3 or 4 hits. Sanders back on a close play. Bobby Cox says if Deion Sanders concentrated full-time on baseball, he'd get a 20 home runs, steal between 60 and 80 bases, and hit 300.
He hit 300 this year, and he had 8 home runs and only 306 at bats.
Sanders at first and nobody out in the 4th inning. No score in Game 3 of the World Series. First pitch to Pendleton, fouled back here.
That was close to a balk. He did not come to a stop delivering the ball home. That's one way that pitchers can hold runners at first base. You throw over there, you throw over there, and then you quick pitch home. You have to come to a full second stop when you bring your hands together.
Good throw to first, and Sanders is back head first. Sanders with the good lead, 1 foot on the artificial turf. He's not running. Time called. The pitch did not count. Pendleton asked for time and was granted time by Joe West, virtually as the pitch was on its way to the plate. Former Toronto manager Jimmy Williams, the 3rd base coach for Atlanta, threw the signs for Pendleton and Sanders. Shorter lead and a good play by Olerud on the ball in the dirt. Pendleton, base hit. Sanders had to hold up to see if Alomar would catch it. And he also had to do a dance to get out of the way of the throw back into the infield. First and second with nobody out for Atlanta as they threaten here in the 4th inning. Terry Pendleton with his 2nd base hit of the World Series. David Justice, the batter. He struck out swinging, ending the 1st. He left Sanders at 3rd. The Braves now are hitting the Blue Jays 3-2. First and second with nobody out in the 4th. In a scoreless ball game. First pitch to Justice. Well hit to center field. Devon White racing back to the warning track. Great catch up against the wall. And the runners passed each other. Pendleton went by Sanders. He has already been called out. Now they have Sanders chance for a triple play. Gruber did not get him. Sanders made it back to second. Gruber insisting to Bob Davidson that he made the tag, but the umpire does not agree, and they came within inches of a triple play. Pendleton was out. He went by Sanders thinking that White would not make the catch, and it's easy to understand why he would think that way. Look at that catch.
And here are the runners crossing right here. Pendleton passing Sanders, so he's out. Dion allowing him to go back to first. I thought that was nice. And then Dion tagging up and trying to go to third. And here's the attempted tag. Kelly Gruber said he got him on the foot, and it looked like he did from that angle.
He did get him on the foot.
What a bizarre play. My goodness. Kelly Gruber says I tagged him on the foot, and he may just have. Wow.
And again, the Blue Jay fans boo. They thought they were victimized by some bad calls in Game 2, particularly by home plate umpire Mike Riley.
Did Kelly Gruber tag Dion? It looked like he did on the right foot. And that would have been one of the most unusual triple plays I've ever heard about, had it happened.
Well, you can't argue with the position of the umpire, Bob Davidson. He had a perfect view of it.
Right.
Gruber doesn't say much to umpires ordinarily. Usually when he does, it's because he fully believes he's right. It certainly appeared to be.
A remarkable play by Devon White started this, and a diving stab with a glove ended it. And it looked like he tagged him on the right heel.
The first angle was the best.
All angles show that he tagged him, it appears to me.
So now Sanders at second with 2 down. Lonnie Smith at the plate with a count of 2-1.
After Pendleton tagged, or after Pendleton passed Sanders at second base, Dion went back to second to tag up to go to third. I don't think Toronto knew that he passed him, because had they known that, they wouldn't have thrown the ball to first base.
Right, they didn't need to. Pendleton had already been called out by the umpires, as you saw on the replay. 2-2 the count. You hear the fans continuing to boo. Obviously, in a high-tech building such as this, there are television sets everywhere. So these fans, many of them have seen the same replays that you saw. There's only been one triple play in postseason history. That was by Cleveland way back in 1920.
It was unassisted.
That is correct. And that's outside. The count is full as the crowd roars. No score. We're in the top of the 4th inning of Game 3 of the World Series. And what a tone this World Series is taking on. Couldn't ask for much more in the way of excitement than we had in Game 2. And we've already topped it with this play in Game 4. In Game 3 in the 4th inning. Smith strikes out, and that ends the inning. 5 strikeouts for Guzman. The inning highlighted by the great catch by Devon White. Welcome back to the Sky Dome. The first pitch of the home half of the 4th, fouled on a play in right field by Roberto Alomar as he faces Steve Avery in a scoreless ball game. A memorable start to this first ever World Series game in Canada. Devon White with the catch that started the double play. We're scoring. It's 8-4 as they doubled up Pendleton. And Kelly Gruber made the tag on the heel of Deion Sanders. But the triple play was not completed because Bob Davidson, the second base umpire, ruled Sanders safe going back into second. Alomar struck out his first time up. He was called out. He'll be followed by Carter and Winfield. Avery has allowed 2 hits without issuing a walk. He has struck out 3. And he's even with Alomar now at 2 balls and 2 strikes. to third and Pendleton. One out. At the conclusion of tonight's game, Tim McCarver and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the player's name to the Special Olympics. Now Joe Carter. Out on a fly ball to center field, his first time up. Well hit to left. Way back. That's the first ever World Series run in Canada.
Fastball on the outside part of the plate. Carter looking for it, it appeared. You see Berryhill sitting outside. It was outside. 1-0 Blue Jays. You saw Joe Carter hit an inside fastball against Tommy Glavine out in Atlanta. And tonight, he takes the outside fastball out against Avery.
He can extend those arms and hammer that outside pitch. He did for his second home run of the series. The Blue Jays have now hit at least one home run in each of their 9 postseason games this year. And that is a record. They came into the night sharing the record with Baltimore and Milwaukee. 9 games in the postseason for Toronto. They've homered in all 9, a total of 13 home runs for the Jays in their series against Oakland and Atlanta. And 8 different Toronto players have hit a home run in postseason 1992. Winfield the pop-up, Lemke the catch, 2 down. We're in the 4th. And the Blue Jays lead Game 3 of the World Series 1-0. Now John Olerud, who struck out swinging his first time up. Back to the mound. Nice play by Avery. And that ends the inning. The Blue Jays are on the board on the home run by Joe Carter. After 4 innings in Game 3, Toronto 1 and Atlanta 0.
New and only at Tim's. Zero sugar sparkling quencher. Delicious raspberry mojito flavor with 0 sugar and 0 artificial colors or flavors. Try Tim's Zero Sugar Quencher today.
It all started with that new Leon sale. I haven't seen him smile this much since our wedding night.
Put on your deal face with huge savings store-wide.
We also offer free local delivery.
Leon's, that's comfortable.
Go forth, feline friends. Find your people who rely on us every day. Strength, softness, and comfort for millions of Canadians. Royale, there for all.
Our goal is to match every pet with a loving home, one adoption at a time. Donate now, and you can help give adoptable pets the home they deserve. PetSmart Charities of Canada. For pets, for people, for good.
Lease the 2026 Jeep Cherokee Hybrid from 1.99% for up to 24 months. Plus, eligible owners get $1,850 anniversary bonus cash.
On Canada's courts, the best come to play.
Now in 2006.
He's at the top of the sport.
Novak Djokovic, the Picasso of tennis.
Bianca Andreescu, the first Canadian lady to win in Canada in 50 years.
Soak it in, Vicky Mboko. Your time has arrived.
Now, the future awaits.
That's going to get the crowd on their feet.
My goodness.
The National Bank Open, presented by Rogers. Full court coverage August 2nd to 13th on Sportsnet.
Now Deion Sanders. Well hit down the right field line toward the corner. That's a fair ball and off the wall on a hop. Sanders again hobbling, and he's just in ahead of the throw from the corner by Carter. And Deion's going to take a stroll. He was limping much more noticeably that time around the bases than he had been earlier.
If you caught our broadcast on Sunday nights, you found out that Deion Sanders has been playing the baseball season and the football season with a broken left foot. He has a bone in the outside part of his foot, and he gets around on the high fastball there. He does not appear to hurt him when he runs, but when he stops and walks, he limps on it.
You saw him hesitate around first and go into the hobble. And again near second. You have to give him a tremendous amount of credit. He started 4 of the last 43 games for Atlanta, has played very little baseball over the last couple of months, and here he is 3 for 3 in game 3 of the World Series.
Remarkable.
And in scoring position for Terry Pendleton, and he is certainly overdue to deliver a big hit for Atlanta. Tying run in scoring position. Pendleton sends one back to the screen. 0-1 on Terry, who's 1 for 2 tonight, a single in the 4th inning. And he was a part of that bizarre play when he passed Deion Sanders on the base paths near second base as Devon White made a great catch at the wall on a ball hit by David Justice. Pendleton out as part of the double play for passing Sanders, and Sanders barely made it back to second base to avoid the triple play. It appeared he was tagged out for the 3rd out, but Bob Davidson ruled him safe. Again, Pendleton had the best average in the majors during the regular season with runners in scoring position. He had 387. Guzman has given up 5 hits. The double by Sanders, the first extra base hit of the night for Atlanta. Now the 1-1 to Pendleton. Ground ball left side. Lee has to go to third. Safe at third is Sanders. That was Lee's only play. Pendleton was going to beat it to first base. So first and third with 1 down for Atlanta here in the 6th inning.
Excellent base running by Sanders. He had a good jump from second base. Pendleton hits it in the hole, and as Sean said, Manny Lee's only play was to third. You saw Sanders watching the ball. He thought Lee was going to go to first base. He slowed down, and as a result made what should have been an easy slide into third with no play. He made it close.
Yeah, it looked like Deion was hobbling a bit. Pendleton 2 for 3 tonight.
I think the Blue Jays are trying to determine whether they want to play the shift with Justice as the batter now. The infield was a little confused. They'll be in double play depth. And you may remember with runners at first and second during his last at bat, they were shifting on the right side of the infield. And that's what Cito Gaston wants to talk to Manuel Lee about. And Robbie Alomar. See, this is not a visit to the pitcher. It's a visit to the infielders, even though it does count as a trip to the mound. He's talked to everybody but Guzman. They're also talking about what to do with the ball with Pat Borders, whether to throw through, whether to hold the ball. I think they'll throw through if Pendleton tries to steal second base. You can't allow the potential go-ahead run to be on second base without trying to nail it.
The numbers don't favor Cito Gaston if he's hoping for a double play. Guzman induced only 7 ground ball double plays this year, and Justice only hit into 1. They do not have the shift on. Lee is shading up the middle, but not on the right field side of the second base bag. First and third with 1 out. Justice a swing and a miss. Justice struck out swinging in the first inning, and he hit into the bizarre double play on the great catch by Devon White at the wall in the 4th. The Braves trailing 1-0. They have the tying run at third and the go-ahead run at first. The 0-1 to Justice. Way outside. Good block by Borders, sliding to his left.
Justice grounded into only one double play all year. The toughest man in the National League to double. So unless he hits it hard right at an infielder, I think the play is to the plate. It's one of the luxuries that you have when you are playing on the artificial turf. The ball gets to you quickly.
Well hit. It nearly hit Pendleton. It goes through into right field to tie the ball game. Sanders in from third. It's 1-1.
Not only was Deion Sanders limping home, but Terry Pendleton was limping to second base. When he fouled a ball back on his last at-bat, he pulled something right above his right knee, it appeared. This line drive, of course, Pendleton has to jump out of the way of it. If he gets hit with the ball, the batter is out. Or I beg your pardon, the runner is out, and the batter is credited with a single.
Ball in the dirt, blocked by Borders. That keeps the runners at first and second. So the hit by Justice, the third consecutive hit for Atlanta. They're up to 7 hits now off Guzman, and they have the go-ahead run in scoring position. The RBI for Justice, his second of the World Series. Lonnie Smith at the plate. He has fanned twice. 1-1 the score in the top of the 6th. Smith has had a tough time catching up to that high fastball from Guzman all night long. Now the 2-2 pitch. Line to right. Carter started in and put the brakes on to make the catch. 2 away. The runners return to their bases. Pendleton to second. Justice to first. Smith now 0 for 3. And the hitter Sid Bream. He's 1 for 2. He singled to center, leading off last inning. The Braves left him at first base as Blauser and Berryhill struck out and Lemke bounced out to end the inning. Terry Pendleton, the runner at second. David Justice at first with 2 down in the top of the 6th. Atlanta has scored a run in this inning to tie the game at 1. First pitch to Bream. A ball low. The 97 miles per hour matches the fastest pitch of the night thrown by Guzman. Now the 2-1 offer. To the right side, Olerud flips to Guzman. That ends the inning. The Braves even the score with a run on 3 hits, and we go to the bottom of the 6th. The Braves 1 and the Blue Jays 1.
New McCafe crafted sodas. Swirled with bold, fizzy flavor and topped with silky sweet cold foam. Obsessed. Part of the new McCafe lineup from McDonald's. Push back on your tough pain. Introducing new Tylenol Dual Action Acetaminophen plus Ibuprofen. Relieve aches and pains and reduce pain caused by inflammation in one effective solution. Dual Action for your tough pain.
We know that the remarkable happens when East meets West, coming alive in our shared passions, our creative pursuits. And here in Sapporo, you too can discover the remarkable where East meets West.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm James H. Brown and Associates. Alberta's precedent-setting injury lawyers are here for you. If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident and are unsure of what to do, call us for your free consultation. When accidents happen, go to jameshbrown.com.
Go forth, feline friends. Find your people who rely on us every day. Strength, softness, and comfort for millions of Canadians. Royale, there for all.
1-1 the score. Top of the order for the Braves. Otis Nixon leads off. And he looked at a fastball high for ball one. Otis 0 for 3 tonight. And both leadoff men, White and Nixon, continuing to have their difficulties here in the World Series. Otis now 1 for 11. That was the 100th pitch of the night thrown by Juan Guzman.
I would be taking right here if you're Otis Nixon. Give Guzman a chance to get wild. Trying to fight your way to first base any way you can.
He is taking all the way, and it's a strike.
It's obviously what you try to do all the time, but you don't get there by taking often. But leadoff hitters, you'll see that strategy employed. He may be taking again with a count 3 balls and a strike. If you take 2-0, you should take 3-1, especially if you're the type of hitter that Otis Nixon is.
Here is the 3-1 pitch. He takes all the way. It's a strike. The count is full. The right-hander is Dwayne Ward. The lefty David Wells in the Toronto bullpen. John Sullivan, the bullpen coach, in the middle. Full count on the leadoff hitter in the 8th inning, Otis Nixon. Batting in a 1-1 game in Game 3 of the World Series. The payoff pitch. Slapped to third through the glove of Gruber, and Nixon is aboard. Nixon hit it hard, but it hit Gruber in the glove. He couldn't squeeze it. And the lead man is on for Atlanta in the 8th.
I guess the first thing you'd have to ask yourself is, why is Kelly Gruber this shallow with a count 3-2 to Nixon? You could afford to play back a step or two. He's even with the bag. I think Kelly could afford to play back a step or two because it was 2 strikes. And you don't know whether he makes the catch anyway. But that ball, when he was right on top of Nixon, got to him in a hurry and threw him in a hurry.
Blue Jays looking for a bunt from Sanders. Nixon draws the throw.
Now that'd be interesting. I mean, here's a guy who's 3 for 3 tonight. Do you bunt with Sanders, or do you allow him to swing away? You got Nixon, who can steal a base at first base. I don't think I'd waste Sanders in this situation. He's too hot a hitter.
And the Blue Jays haven't been able to throw anybody out in the postseason.
And you've got a left-handed batter up there. It's tougher for a catcher to see the runner at first. It's a lot tougher to throw with a left-handed hitter up there because you are blocked out. You need help from the bench. Don't know what Bobby Cox is going to do, but this calls for a swinging situation, or let Nixon steal second and then bunt him to third.
Nixon aboard. They've scored an error on Gruber. The first error for either team. Sanders swings away and fouls it past Pat Corrales in the first base coach's bump. That's what Prime Time has done in the World Series. He has been a prime time performer indeed, with 4 for 6 at the plate, 3 stolen bases, 2 runs scored for Bobby Cox, who took a chance in playing a guy who hasn't played much baseball over the last month and a half, particularly when Bobby Cox has a player of Ron Gant's ability who is sitting out while Deion plays.
Interesting conversation there between Terry Pendleton and Deion Sanders. Maybe Bobby Cox has put the bunt on. He gave him 1 shot to swing away, and we'll see if he sacrifices here. Gruber in at third.
Nixon at first with nobody out. 8th inning, 1-1 the score. He is on the move. They pitch out. Borders with the throw. Not in time. It was high. Lee had to go into the air for it. And the Braves do indeed forego the sacrifice and take the high percentage play in this postseason, the stolen base.
You saw the look by Nixon in the head first slide, and Nixon in there easily, and the Braves in a terrific scoring opportunity with nobody out, and the count in Sanders' favor. He might still be bunting, and now you bunt Nixon to third. That was a pitch out that Nixon ran on there.
Otis is 5 for 5 in stolen bases in the postseason. Atlanta's a perfect 14 for 14 as a team. They do not go to the bunt, and Sanders pops it up. So now it's as if they sacrificed. One out and the runner at second base. Leon upset with himself as he returns to the dugout. The pop-up was taken by the shortstop, Lee.
Well, you can't quibble with that strategy. If he was swinging with a runner at first base, a runner at second, and nobody out, he still has a chance for the ground ball to the right side to move him over. And he is the only player in this game with 3 hits. 3 for 4 now.
Borders to the mound. He'll be joined there by pitching coach Galen Cisco. And Steve Avery looks ahead to the bottom of the 8th inning when the Blue Jays have the bottom third of their order due up. Gruber, Borders, and Lee. Terry Pendleton 2 for 3 tonight. The go-ahead run at second with 1 out. And the fastball up and in on Pendleton. He has 2 singles. A single in each of his last 2 at-bats. Otis Nixon, the runner at second with excellent speed. Broken bat, chopper to second. Again, Pendleton, the leading hitter in the majors this year with men in scoring position, fails to come up with a hit with a runner in scoring position. But he does move Nixon to third. He's there with 2 outs.
Now what are you going to do? You're going to walk David Justice? I would imagine with Lonnie Smith on deck having a tough time getting around on the fastball, that walking Justice here would make sense.
And Cito Gaston agrees. They'll walk Justice, take their chances with Smith. They almost threw the ball at the backstop to Guzman. Lonnie Smith on deck, who's 0 for 3 tonight, and has struck out twice. This is the first walk of the night issued by Guzman, and it's an intentional walk.
You can hear the uneasiness here. Guzman has thrown 2 high fastballs wide. Borders had to jump for both of them. You could hear the fans kind of saying, wait a minute, wait just 1 second.
That's what Cito was saying as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many problems there are over the course of a Major League Baseball season on intentional walks.
The game that Toronto clinched here, we saw Robbie Alomar steal third on an intentional walk.
That's right, against the Tigers.
Yeah.
Justice at first base. And Nixon at third with 2 down, and Lonnie Smith coming up.
And the mind games continue. What does Pat Borders do if Justice tries to steal? I don't think he'll throw through this time, not with Nixon on third.
Smith right on top of the plate, waits as Justice draws a throw. 1-1 the score. We're in the top of the 8th inning of Game 3 of the World Series. The first pitch to Smith, fouled out of play. Another late swing for Lonnie against Guzman tonight. Guzman looking in at Smith, who has had his problems tonight, but Bobby Cox calls him stretch drive because he usually delivers in the clutch. And he does again with a base hit into left field. Otis Nixon scores, and the Braves lead. Now the throw to third, and Justice is a dead duck. The big hit by Lonnie Smith gives the Atlanta Braves their first lead of the night as we go to the bottom of the 8th.
Staying active means my independence and my freedom, and that's where Kintec comes in. They listened, they were attentive, and they were able to provide solutions. Kintec enabled me to have longevity in the things that I enjoy doing.
We just received news there's a white shark in the area.
Whoa! Flying sharks, very exciting.
So we have multiple sharks around the boat right now.
Let's see what you got.
Shark Week is pretty crazy.
Every time it happens, I lose my mind. And now, for the first time, we come to the California coast.
Breach!
Hi, can I take your order? Hello?
Oh, hey. Wait, what was the question?
Let me guess. One driving high combo, extra baked?
No. Could I get a burger with a side of fries?
Think you're a better driver when you're high? Think again. Smoking weed affects reaction time and concentration. A message from Mad Canada.
From the first pitch,
What a scene here at the Rogers Center.
to the final at bat.
And the Blue Jays win it.
162 chances to witness something unforgettable.
The Blue Jays giving everything they've got. Got him!
Because the beauty of this team is the infinite possibility.
I want it all for the city.
Every moment covered right here on Sportsnet.
The Braves lead for the first time tonight, 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the 8th, and Kelly Gruber fouls the first pitch of the inning from Steve Avery for strike one. Gruber's 0 for 1 tonight. Still hitless in his last 23 postseason at bats. He walked and stole second in the 5th inning. He is the last Toronto hitter to reach base. As he left the mound following the top of the 8th, Juan Guzman demonstrating his disgust. It was an unearned run as a result of the error charged to Kelly Gruber.
I think what may have upset Juan was that he was blowing the fastball by Smith all night. He gave in to him with a slider, and Smith was able to pull it through the hole for a base hit.
Action for the first time tonight in the Atlanta bullpen. Mike Stanton is the lefty. Mark Wohlers the right-hander. Gruber then Borders and Lee, the bottom third of the order in the bottom of the 8th. Breaking ball wouldn't come down for Avery. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Cito Gaston has watched Steve Avery throw 100 pitches. This is 101. The Jays have not had a hit since the home run by Carter with 1 out in the 4th. Gruber, the only base runner since then, with his walk in the 5th. And he's back to a full count, 3-2. A walk to Gruber in the 5th, the only walk thrown by Avery tonight. Payoff pitch. Well hit down the left field line. Sanders watching it go. Home run, Kelly Gruber. Drought within a single postseason in history. A game-tying home run. This one is knotted at 2.
Avery forced to come in with a fastball. The interesting thing, it's almost in the identical spot that Joe Carter earlier hit the home run. Up and away.
And that's where the ball went, up and away.
And that's the first hit since Joe Carter's home run.
Now Waters with a deep drive to center field. Nixon on the run to the warning track. He leaps and makes the catch. Waters to the deepest part of the ballpark. Nixon the catch for the first out of the 8th inning.
Nixon had more room than he thought. A jump wasn't necessary, but he decided to make sure.
Waters now 1 for 3. Kelly Gruber atoning for the error that led to the unearned run in the top of the inning with his second home run of this postseason, ending an 0 for 23 drought. 2-2 the score. Manuel Lee the batter. And ball 1 in the dirt. Cito Gaston said, I don't care if Kelly Gruber gets a hit as long as he continues to play great defense. He didn't in the top of the inning. So then he came through at the bat. 1-1 on Lee. He's 0 for 2 tonight against Steve Avery, who has only allowed 4 hits. Lee has twice bounced to third. Devon White is on deck. Pendleton couldn't get it. Blauser did and throws him out. Nice play by the shortstop for the second out of the 8th inning. Devon White 0 for 3 tonight. 1 for 12 in the World Series. He's taking the first pitch all the way, and it's a strike. And the ritual at the end of the dugout, pounding for a hit. It's already worked once in this inning. Galen Cisco on the phone to the Toronto bullpen. Bottom part of the order coming up in the 9th inning for Atlanta. Green, Blauser, and Berryhill. Hitters 6, 7, and 8. Late swing, 1-2. Avery had retired 8 in a row before the Gruber homer. He's retired 2 in a row since, and he's ahead of White 1 ball and 2 strikes. Struck him out. White couldn't catch up to it. That ends the inning, but the home run by Kelly Gruber has tied the game at 2 as we go to the 9th in Game 3.
Push back on your tough pain. Introducing new Tylenol Dual Action Acetaminophen plus Ibuprofen. Relieve aches and pains and reduce pain caused by inflammation in one effective solution. Dual Action for your tough pain.
Josh Gay speaking. A lost shipwreck, Inca treasure tunnels, and then diving into the jungles of Mexico, all the way to the Philippines? Who is this?
Join Josh Gates for an expedition of a lifetime.
I love it when adventure calls.
Expedition Unknown, Wednesday on Discovery.
You may remember in the top of the 8th inning when Otis Nixon scored the go-ahead run, David Justice is thrown out at third base easily by Candy Maldonado. David running to the bag. He was not running through the bag. Of course, you can't do that if the left fielder comes up with the ball and throws behind you. He could nail you. But that could turn out to be a very big play, depending on what Sid Bream would have done.
That ended the top of the 8th with only the 1 run in. Justice would have been in scoring position with 2 outs for Bream. Now Dwayne Ward on the pitch after 8 innings from Juan Guzman. Ward making his second appearance. He was the winning pitcher in game 2 thanks to the heroics of Ed Sprague. Sid Bream greets him and takes a strike. Bream 1 for 3 tonight. And the Toronto relievers have been outstanding in this World Series. They have held the Braves hitless in a combined 6 2/3 innings. That's bidding to be the first hit off a reliever, and it is. Nice play by White to get it on a hop. But Sid Bream is aboard, representing the go-ahead run with nobody out in the 9th inning. Bream is 2 for 4. And there will be a runner for Sid Bream. It's going to be Brian Hunter. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Brian Hunter, the runner for Bream.
Well, Jeff Blauser, the best bunter on the Atlanta team, says Bobby Cox. We'll see if he's bunting here, but you do have the bottom of the order following Blauser.
Almost a guaranteed bunt situation. Hunter not a speed burner there at first. He runs a bit better than Bream. Brian Hunter only stole 1 base during the regular season. Blauser sacrificed 7 times in the regular season. Hunter at first with nobody out in the top of the 9th. 2-2 the score.
Of course, Pat Borders has been having problems throwing. You could attempt to hit and run in this situation. The count in favor of Blauser. Little chance of a pitch out.
Blauser is 0 for 3 tonight. He has struck out twice. He takes a strike. Turned to bunt. Took the bat back, but it caught the outside corner. 1-1. To bunt. This time it's a ball. No, a strike. Blauser must have left the bat out there too long because the pitch was low and away.
Well, we'll see. He didn't bunt around on it. No. Joe West called it a strike. He clearly
appealed down to first.
He clearly took the bat back, though. I think it was on the call, but a delayed call by Joe West, the home plate umpire.
As has become vogue among umpires of late. Again, he turns to bunt with 2 strikes. And it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jimmy Williams with no signs for Blauser. Jeff still looking at him. And now here come the signs. Apparently Williams was waiting to get them from the dugout.
Yeah, the problem with that 2-strike bunt is because you don't want to foul it off, you have a tendency to bunt it to the fat part of the infield, right back to the pitcher.
Now the runner takes off. It's a check swing. The throw. Got him. They appeal down to first. Double play. It's a strikeout as well. First they got the out at second, and what a big time for Pat Borders to find the range and throwing somebody out. Then they appealed down to first, and Dan Morrison got out the cash register to ring up Jeff Blauser.
Blauser clearly goes around, and the throw by Borders is perfect, and the tag slapped on Hunter by Manuel Lee, who wants the appeal. You said that the delayed call has become in vogue. Well, there was another delayed call in favor of the Blue Jays, and clearly he went around.
And they're warning the Atlanta dugout now. A helmet came flying out. Bobby Cox, I don't think threw the helmet. One of his players did, but Bobby's jawing back at Joe West. Well, somebody's been tossed, and here comes Cox. It was Bobby Cox who threw the helmet out there.
Yep. And I think Joe West, when he looked over there, saw Lonnie Smith standing up. And we don't know yet whether he kicked out Bobby Cox or Lonnie Smith. Why would Joe West be looking at the dugout? Obviously, a helmet was thrown out there, but just allow the bat boy to pick up the helmet and bring it back. Unless profanity was used.
Well, we've seen two things in this inning that are unsavory about the umps. One, the lackadaisical attitude that they occasionally take. We mentioned the very slow strike call, and fans throughout the world are hanging on every pitch in the game.
Here's the check swing again by Blauser. He went around the throw at second base. Got Hunter. Hunter didn't complain, but the reaction by Bobby Cox is vigorous.
You wonder if he was trying to throw it on the field or bounce it off that top step. It looked like he might have been aiming at the ledge and missed.
Yeah, yeah.
He was not ejected, or was he? He's going to go down the runway now. Lonnie Smith was the first who charged onto the field. And then the indication came that somebody was ejected, and then Cox came out after him.
Maybe
but Lonnie's still in the dugout.
Maybe it was his helmet.
That's what they have the bat boy for. Well, what a night this has been. Bobby Cox apparently has been ejected. And you could see Smith was on his way out first after the indication of an ejection. I think Lonnie might have thought it was Smith who had been thrown out, but it was Cox who was tossed. And Smith is still in the game. Berryhill at the plate. So it's a double play. Usually it's strike him out and throw him out. In this case, it was throw him out and then strike him out. What are we going to see next?
I think you're right, though, Sean. I think Bobby wanted to hit the top step of the helmet, and it trickled out, and Joe West assumed, I guess rightly so, that he was throwing the helmet out of the dugout.
A strike.
Well, let's see if Berryhill goes around. Yeah, that was even farther than Jeff Blauser.
Most of the fans on their feet as Ward delivers the 1-2 pitch in the dirt.
You know, Bobby Cox may have been upset because the play didn't work. He got the strikeout and then the throw him out, and Bobby appeared to want to hit the top step of the dugout.
And he might have been upset about the late call on the pitch on the second strike to Blauser, the bunt try that looked to be low and away. West pondered it a while and then came up with the arm. Berryhill blown away. That ends the inning. Bottom of the ninth upcoming. Alomar, Carter, and Winfield do. 2-2 the score.
Are you ready? Let's do it.
Tuesdays.
The stage is yours.
Yes, 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 yes.
I have no idea what's going on.
That was like spectacular. It was insane.
This is a new day.
Yes, 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 yes.
America's Got Talent. All new Tuesdays, 8, 7 Central on City TV.
Well, a couple of nights ago, we saw Jane Fonda praying for an Atlanta rally. The fans telling Jane the Braves don't have a prayer tonight as she sits along her husband, Braves owner Ted Turner. Bottom of the ninth inning, 2-2 the score. Roberto Alomar with a slicing fly ball that gets toward the stands and into the front row. Good effort by Justice, and he was late in arriving. Brian Hunter remains in the game at first base. Alomar 0 for 3 tonight. 1 for 11 in the series. The top of the order, White and Alomar combined 0 for 7. Through the middle, a base hit. And the winning run is aboard with nobody out in the bottom of the ninth. There is action in the Atlanta bullpen. They were throwing before the inning started. Mike Stanton, the lefty. Mark Wohlers, the right-hander.
Here's something to consider. He's going to the right-hander, but Alomar is a very fast runner. So you're taking out the left-hander, with a better chance to pick the runner off and bringing in the hard-throwing Wohlers. This is a very interesting situation, and you're liable to see Alomar take advantage of it.
And they are taking out Avery, who had the biggest problem in the National League this year with stolen bases against him. Interesting, too, that former Toronto manager Jimmy Williams is now making these decisions, probably with Bobby Cox somewhere nearby. Mark Wohler's the new pitcher. We're back in a moment. Will this be the latest in a growing list of ninth-inning dramatic finishes in this 1992 postseason? Steve Avery will not be around for the finish. He's out after 115 pitches, 8 innings plus 1 batter, having given way to Mark Wohlers, who inherits Alomar at first base and nobody out. Alomar draws a throw.
And the Blue Jay hitters better turn it up a notch. Mark Wohlers clocked at 100 miles an hour during the National League Championship Series against Pittsburgh.
Carter hit the home run in the 4th inning off Avery. The Braves do not anticipate a bunt from the number 3 hitter in the Toronto lineup. Pendleton well back of the bag at third. Alomar, a great stolen base threat. He had 49 during the regular season.
And 5 straight in postseason play. And I think that's where the percentages are, allowing Carter to take and giving Alomar a chance to steal a base. Joe Carter has sacrificed 1 time this year and 10 times during his career.
Alomar bluffs. They pitch out. Berryhill down to first, and back head first is Alomar.
There's the pitch out, the fake break by Alomar, and diving back to the outside of the bag.
One 1-0 on Carter. We're in the bottom of the 9th. 2-2 the score. Alomar at first with nobody out. He is not running. Wohlers outside with ball 2. Dave Winfield will follow Joe Carter. Alomar on the run. Berryhill's throw not in time. The winning run is in scoring position with nobody out.
A tremendous jump by Alomar. The look, and he slides into second easily. And I would imagine with the count 3 balls and no strikes that they will walk Joe Carter. Berryhill had no chance. That fastball taking his glove back, trying to recover. Alomar with the jump, no chance.
8 for 8 in postseason in his career, 6 for 6 this year. He was 5 for 5 against Oakland in the playoffs, and that's his first in the World Series and his first attempt. They are going to issue the 4th ball to Joe Carter to walk him. Set up first and second with nobody out. And set up the double play possibility with Winfield coming up.
Like Joe Carter, Dave Winfield has bunted once this year in a sacrifice situation. Dave Winfield is a good bunter. I remember his San Diego days. But if you bunt, then Olaru's the batter, and Jimmy Williams could elect to walk him, bring the outfield and infield in, and pitch to Maldonado. Or you could bring Mike Stanton in the game to pitch to Olaru. That's what Bobby Cox did in game 2.
Roberto Alomar, the important runner at second. He represents the winning run. Joe Carter at first. Nobody out. Bottom of the 9th, 2-2 the score. Winfield is 1 for 3 tonight. He had a chopping infield hit his first time up. He squares to bunt, and it's a good bunt down to first. Hunter to Lemke for the out. It's a sacrifice 3-4. And now the winning run is 90 feet away with 1 out in the bottom of the ninth.
Look at Brian Hunter playing behind Carter at first base. The Braves were not expecting this. Hunter was behind the runner. You can see Hunter behind Carter at first base. This is not what is considered normally a good bunt. It was too hard, but because Hunter was behind the runner, it was effective.
A good bunt given the situation. Jimmy Williams on his way to the mound. Tim laid out the scenarios for you. They could decide to walk Olerud and load the bases or pitch to him, and it appears that they will pitch to him since he has summoned the left-hander, Mike Stanton. 2-2 the score with runners at second and third and 1 out in the bottom of the ninth. We'll be back in just a moment. The score with 1 out and 2 men in scoring position in the bottom of the ninth, and the Blue Jays have summoned Game 2 hero Ed Sprague. His pinch hit 2-run homer off Jeff Reardon in the top of the ninth inning gave the Blue Jays a 5-4 win.
Terry Pendleton, the captain of the Braves, meeting with the outfielders and reminding them that they must come in. Nixon hurt him. And David Justice hurt him, but Deion Sanders is still too deep in left field. And you might say, well, it's an intentional walk. What if he hits it?
They will not give Sprague a chance to be the hero tonight.
Yes,
they'll intentionally walk him and take their chances with Candy Maldonado. And that's ball 4. They do have the right-handed option of Jeff Reardon, who was victimized by the Sprague homer, to take the loss. Jimmy Williams is on his way to the mound. No indication yet of a pitching change by Williams. But here comes Reardon through the bullpen door. A chance for redemption for Jeff Reardon or another disappointing night. We'll be back in just a moment. Obviously, Tim, both managers were thinking through all the likely scenarios, and the Braves understood with their maneuvering that this was what they would wind up with. Jeff Reardon against Candy Maldonado. Undoubtedly, the Braves aware that Maldonado was only 2 for 13 lifetime against Reardon with 7 strikeouts. But Reardon is not the same pitcher that he was for much of his career.
That's right, and Mark Wohlers is. So if you leave Wohlers in the game instead of bringing in Stanton, you walk. That was one of the scenarios we talked about earlier. Then you end up walking Olerud, and you have Wohlers pitching to Maldonado. And Wohlers is a strikeout pitcher if he can throw strikes. On the other hand, I think it's pretty clear that Bobby Cox, Jimmy Williams, the Atlanta organization, got Reardon to close the games, and they're going to put him out there again. Remember now, the outfielders have to be in. A long sacrifice fly, and this game's over. Deion Sanders is too deep right now. He is too deep. You look at Otis Nixon, David Justice, they're at the proper distance, and now they're bringing Sanders in. You've got to be in a position where you can throw the runner out. And Deion Sanders, even from where he is now, I don't think can do that.
First pitch to Maldonado, swung on and missed for strike 1. The infield in behind Reardon. They have to come to the plate to cut down the winning run. Alomar, the runner at third. Carter is at second, Sprague at first. 2-2 the score with 1 out in the bottom of the ninth. Reardon jumps ahead of him quickly, 0-2. Reardon, after the disappointment of Game 2, said, I just hope that I get another chance to get back out there soon and help my team win the game. He's come into a very difficult spot. And Maldonado takes an 0-2 pitch to deep center to win the ball game. On an 0-2 pitch, he gave him something that Maldonado could drive, and he drove it, driving in Alomar with the winning run. Toronto takes game 3, 3-2. Thank you, Jim. The starting lineup tonight for the Atlanta Braves against Jimmy Key. Otis Nixon leads off in center field. Jeff Blauser, the shortstop. Terry Pendleton batting third at third base. The cleanup hitter is DH Lonnie Smith. David Justice, the only left-handed hitter in the lineup, in right field. Ron Gant back in the lineup in left field. Brian Hunter batting seventh at first base. The catcher Damon Berryhill bats eighth. And batting ninth, the second baseman Mark Lemke.
The defense for the Toronto Blue Jays, Candy Maldonado, he had an assist last night. He had 12 during the regular season. He'll be in left field. Devon White with that remarkable catch last night. An almost triple play for the Blue Jays against the Braves. Joe Carter once again in right field this evening. Kelly Gruber will be the third baseman. Manuel Lee at shortstop. Roberto Alomar in that great range at second base. John Olerud at first base. And Pat Borders once again behind the plate.
And on the mound making his World Series debut, 31-year-old left-hander Jimmy Key, who finished the regular season at 13-13, but he won each of his last 5 decisions. Key is ready to go, and another sellout crowd is on hand at Sky Dome. They expect nearly 52,000. Otis Nixon leads off. He's a switch hitter. And he's looking to end an 0-for-11 drought since he singled on the first pitch in the first inning in game 1 off Jack Morris. We're underway. 1 strike on Nixon, who fouled one back to the screen. Otis was a better right-handed hitter during the regular season.
You saw only 22 RBIs for the leadoff batter. What leadoff hitters want to do, score a lot of runs. And from the leadoff position, the Atlanta Braves led the National League this year with 116 runs scored. They also got 200 hits out of that position. Only the Reds and the Expos had 200 hits from their leadoff guys.
The 1-1 pitch is a breaking ball low and in. Jimmy Key is a native of Huntsville, Alabama. And a product of Clemson University. Nixon has his second hit of the series. His first since the first inning of game 1. He slapped one into right, and the Braves have the lead man on. Dan Morrison, as Jim Cott mentioned, in the spotlight is the home plate umpire tonight. Bob Davidson at first, John Shulock at second, Jerry Crawford at third. Mike Riley is along the left field line, and Joe West is in right.
We talked about how to approach Jimmy Key, and you can only tell by the first hitter. Otis Nixon's approach was perfect. Sinker away, and he lined one to right.
Nixon had 41 stolen bases during the regular season, and Key has an excellent pickoff move. It'll be a bit more difficult for the Braves to run tonight against the tandem of Key and Borders.
It'll be a bit more difficult with Bob Davidson at first base. Bob Davidson, more than any other National League umpire, calls a lot of balks.
Affectionately known as Balk and Bob by some in the National League. One strike on Jeff Blauser, who waits as Nixon draws another throw. Otis a perfect 2 for 2 in the World Series in stolen bases. Good move. Out at first is Otis Nixon.
Otis Nixon is just flat out nailed at first base. You see him lean towards second, back too late to first. Fine move by Jimmy Key.
He was out with room to spare. Now Blauser takes a ball and it's 1-1. After Otis Nixon was called out by Bob Davidson, Pat Corrales, the first base coach, did speak with the first base umpire about the move. It wasn't a heated protest, but a point was made by Pat Corrales to the first base umpire. There's Pat.
Pat, a former major league manager. He managed the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cleveland Indians. Also the Texas Rangers.
3 balls and a strike now on Blauser, whose only hit in this series was in game 2. A single. Key, a relatively quick worker, and Blauser singles to center. Again, Tim, we see the approach that you spoke of at the top of the telecast, taking Jimmy Key to the opposite field or up the middle.
And we said it in the pregame comments. See if that ball's on the sweet part of the bat. If you try to pull it, you pull it to the left side of the infield and hit it weakly on the end of the bat. But keeping the left shoulder in there for a right-handed batter is essential to hit Jimmy Key well, or for that matter, Tommy Glavine.
Blauser at first and 1 out. We're in the top of the first inning in game 4 of the World Series. Blauser with a delayed steal, and the throw did not get him. Well, that was kind of strange. Blauser, fooled by the move, got a very late start. It looked like a hit and run as Pendleton swung through the pitch, but Jeff wound up safe at second nonetheless.
I think he called it right both ways. Really, it looked like a delayed steal and a hit and run. I think what Jeff was thinking, you've got to make sure against a guy like Jimmy Key, you make sure that he doesn't throw to first base. The obligation is on the hitter to put the ball in play. The Braves end up getting a stolen base out of it, however.
See, Borders didn't realize that Blauser was running. He hesitated before delivering to second. Pendleton hammers one to short. Lee the catch. Throw to second, not in time. And Alomar goes leaping over Blauser. So another ball well struck by the Braves. But Pendleton hit it right at the shortstop Lee, and they had a chance to double off Blauser.
That was a curveball, and the 3rd line drive in a row hit off Jimmy Key. Alomar, who was playing Pendleton straight away, is late on arriving and hurdles Jeff Blauser.
Now the 3-1 to short. Lee throws him out. After half an inning, the Braves nothing, and the Blue Jays coming up.
On Canada's courts, the best come to play.
Now in 2006.
He's at the top of the sport.
Novak Djokovic, the Picasso of tennis.
Bianca Andreescu, the first Canadian lady to win in Canada in 50 years.
Soak it in, Vicky Mboko. Your time has arrived.
Now, the future awaits.
That's going to get the crowd on their feet. Oh, goodness.
The National Bank Open, presented by Rogers. Full court coverage August 2nd to 13th on Sportsnet.
Center fielder Devon White leads off for the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. Roberto Alomar batting second at second base. Joe Carter is the right fielder. The cleanup hitter DH Dave Winfield. Batting fifth at first base John Olerud. Batting sixth in left field Candy Maldonado. The third baseman Kelly Gruber bats seventh. Hitting eighth and doing the catching Pat Borders, and the shortstop Manuel Lee bats ninth. That is the lineup. The Blue Jays send up against 26-year-old lefty Tom Glavine, who was the winning pitcher for Atlanta in Game 1 as he went the distance.
He pitched a 4-hitter on Saturday, the only complete game of this series, and his only 2 postseason wins have been in the World Series. He is 2-5 in postseason play, a 20-game winner this year.
For the second consecutive year, Devon White digs in. Just 1 for 13 in the World Series. He had an RBI single in Game 2. No score as the Jays bat for the first time tonight. And White looked at Glavine's first pitch, low and away. Now the 2-2. That's an example of a pitch that might have gone Glavine's way in Game 1. Instead, it's a full count. That was a great catch by White last night, and it nearly started a triple play, which would have been only the second in World Series history. That's through the middle, and again, the approach to these left-handers. Up the middle or to the opposite field. White used it to come up with just his second hit of the World Series.
The defense for the Atlanta Braves. Ron Gann in left field and Otis Nixon in center. David Justice with a strong arm in right. Terry Pendleton at third base. Jeff Blauser, the shortstop. Mark Lemke at second base. Brian Hunter, the first baseman. And once again, Damon Berryhill behind the plate.
And the batter is Roberto Alomar, who's only 2 for 12 in the series, but he started the 9th inning last night with a single, stole second, and scored the winning run. He turned a bunt and took it back and looked at a ball. Rich Hacker is the third base coach for the Blue Jays. Devon White has not attempted a stolen base in the World Series. He hasn't been on much.
He had 37 and 41 tries during the regular season. Only Henry Cotto of the Seattle Mariners had a better ratio. But he was caught 4 times in the American League Championship Series. How do you figure? I don't know.
That's amazing. Only thrown out 4 times during the entire regular season and 41 tries. Then he's thrown out 4 times in 6 games against Oakland.
I think one of the reasons, Terry Steinbach.
And the Oakland pitching staff, which Cito Gaston says does the best job of holding runners on of any staff in baseball. Glavine with the slide step. That's a double play ball if they hurry. And no chance as White was on top of Lemke. 1 out. They erased the lead runner. And it's Alomar at first base with 1 down in the first, no score.
Once again, that's what we were talking about in the opening. White with the ideal approach to Tommy Glavine, and Roberto Alomar with the approach that's going to get you a lot of ABs without any hits. The ground ball to shortstop.
Joe Carter digs in. He's 3 for 10 with 2 solo home runs. One of those at the expense of Tom Glavine in the 4th inning of Game 1. It was the only run surrendered by Atlanta that night. Carter pops it up first base side. It will be close. Hunter to the rail without a play. It's 2 rows deep. He's not running. Carter pulls it slowly to third. Pendleton's only play at first. He intentionally threw it into the turf to speed it up. And Carter is out. Alomar to second with 2 down.
The first infielder that made this throw by design was Davey Concepcion, the shortstop of the Cincinnati Reds. A 1-hopper to first base. That, as Sean said, was by design.
And now Dave Winfield. Like Carter, he's 3 for 10 in the series. Winfield does not have a home run. All 3 of his hits singles. He's had 1 hit in each of the first 3 games. No score. The Blue Jays threaten with 2 down in the bottom of the first, and Roberto Alomar at second base. Breaking ball stayed outside. 1-0 on Winfield. Bobby Cox waited a while before naming Tom Glavine the starter for Game 4. He wanted to see how Glavine bounced back after throwing 126 pitches in Game 1. Glavine threw on the side here on the off day at Sky Dome on Monday and threw extremely well, and that erased any doubt that Bobby Cox might have had in his mind. There is the Atlanta skipper who was ejected from last night's game by home plate umpire Joe West when he threw a helmet out onto the playing field. Bobby told us before the game, as we suspected last night, he did not mean to throw the helmet onto the field, tried to bounce it off the step, but he missed. Winfield has appeared in 2 World Series, this one in the 1981 World Series while a member of the New York Yankees. He was 1 for 22. Alomar heads to third without a throw. During the regular season, Alomar stole third base 12 times. Only Marquise Grissom of Montreal stole third more often. He stole third 24 times.
Twice as many as Alomar. Craig Biggio and Luis Polonia also stole third 12 times. It is not often with 2 outs that you steal third without a throw, but Terry Pendleton holding his position.
Winfield up the middle. Lemke from behind the bag throws him out. A nice play to end the inning. The Blue Jays threaten but do not score. After 1 at the Sky Dome, no score.
We just received news there's a white shark in the area.
Flying sharks, very exciting.
So we have multiple sharks around the boat right now.
Let's see what you've got. Shark Week
is pretty crazy.
Every time it happens, I lose my mind. And now, for the first time, we come to the California coast.
Breach!
Going back to Sky Dome, no score as we go to the bottom of the 3rd inning in Game 4. Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver. You mentioned Evergreen is Otis Nixon's hometown.
And we are going to read this card. Research done by Steve Hurt. He's been talking to the postmaster there, Elise Johnson, who is the postmaster from Evergreen, and we found out that Evergreen has 2 Little League ballparks, 2 gas stations, a post office, a fire department, a school that goes from kindergarten to the 8th grade, a farm supply store, a print shop, and a factory. It's 55 miles south of Fayetteville, North Carolina, where Fort Bragg is, and 60 miles west of Wilmington, North Carolina.
About 650 people live in Evergreen, they tell us. That one's heading for Evergreen. Deep to left field, near the pole, and a home run. Pat Borders puts the Blue Jays on the board with a home run off Tom Glavine. Just fair down the left field line. It's 1-0 Toronto.
Tommy Glavine allowed only 6 home runs during the regular season. In 18 innings, he's allowed 5 home runs in postseason play. And Pat Borders has been sizzling with the bat.
That's his first home run in the World Series. He's now 5 for 10 in this series against Atlanta. He had a home run in the playoffs as well. Manuel Lee out on the bounding ball to second.
Tommy Glavine was working Borders outside, and he misses. The 1-0 pitch fouled off, and now he tries to come inside. Too much of the plate.
So the Blue Jays have now homered in each of their 10 postseason games this year. Devon White looked at ball one outside. The Blue Jays add to their own record. They set the record last night with a home run in their 9th consecutive postseason game. That's within a single postseason. Now they've done it in 10 in a row. And the count is 1-1 on White. How that can happen. You mentioned the lack of home runs surrendered by Glavine during the regular season, and it's certainly not because he pitches in a ballpark that has a deep fence. They call it the launching pad at Atlanta.
One of the easiest parks in which to hit in all of baseball. 6 home runs in only 225 innings, and here he's worked 18 2/3, and he's given up 5 in postseason play.
Now the 2-2 pitch. Slice down the right field line. Fair ball toward the corner. It took a strange bounce out of the right field corner. So strange I had trouble describing it. And Devon White has a double. Takes or took, take your pick. It doesn't matter. It's a 2-base hit all the way.
Well, Devon White once again with the proper approach to Tom Glavine. The slicing double down the line, and a fine piece of hitting by Devon White.
So after coming into the ball game 1 for 13 in the World Series, White is 2 for 2 tonight, and in scoring position with 1 out in the bottom of the 3rd. The Blue Jays lead 1-0 on the Borders home run. And Roberto Alomar is the batter. He reached on a fielder's choice. Advanced to second on a ground out, stole third, and was stranded there in the 1st inning. Glavine missed outside with a fastball. Glavine has now surrendered 3 hits. Tommy had retired 6 in a row prior to the home run by Borders. And those numbers a big reason why Alomar had a career-high 76 runs batted in this year.
That is a ton for a number 2 hitter, too.
Lemke was dancing around in the second base bag, and Glavine looked White back into second. The 2-0 pitch. High and away, 3 balls and no strikes with Joe Carter on deck.
Very unusual depth in center field. Otis Nixon plays one of the most shallow, or the shallowest, center fields in the major leagues. He has tremendous speed. He and White both have tremendous speed going back on balls, but you don't drop too many in front of either one of them.
And that's ball 4 outside. Alomar walks on 4 pitches. The first walk thrown by Glavine tonight. Glavine did not issue a walk in going 9 innings in game 1. Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach, on his way to the mound. There is no action in the Atlanta bullpen. One of the few negatives of the Sky Dome from the perspective of fan is that they cannot see into the bullpens from most of the seats here. They're behind the outfield fences. The members of the bullpen sit on raised bleachers so they can see over the outfield fence, and you saw Pete Smith go down the stairs to begin warming up.
From a fan's point of view, you just look down and see who's missing from the bench. And then you decide whether somebody's up and throwing or not for the majority of the fans here.
It is Pete Smith Warming up as Joe Carter stands in. Runners at first and second and one out. 1-0 Toronto in the third. Carter looks at the 5th straight ball thrown by Glavine. Carter bounced to third his first time up. Devon White, the runner at second. Roberto Alomar at first. Outstanding speed on the bases for the Blue Jays. And a big hack by Carter. He foul tipped it into the mid of Berryhill.
When you put speed on the bases like the Blue Jays have, you get the middle infielders moving all around, and often that opens up the holes for the hitters. You have White, who can run on at second, and Alomar on at first. But look how close Lemke is keeping Devon White.
He was standing right on the bag as the pitch was delivered. That's a double play. Carter lined it right to Blauser. He flipped to Lemke, who had nowhere to go to get to the bag, and that ends the inning. The Blue Jays are on the board on the home run by Borders after 3. 1-0 Toronto.
The truck with road presence. The truck with a sport performance hood. 20-inch all-black aluminum wheels. Rugged black grille. And it comes with an unsurpassed 10-year or 160,000-kilometer warranty. The new 2026 Ram 1500 Black Express. Starting at $56,995.
Meet our Chief Tough Officer. He does extremely tough tests.
So when a product survives him,
it's ready.
Gorilla Glue for the toughest jobs on planet Earth.
So who we play?
Local crew. They haven't lost since 1996.
It's not Beckham.
Didn't matter who showed up. They owned that pitch. They say Zidane didn't speak for a week.
Kelly Gruber with a swing and a miss for strike one. He's 0 for 2 tonight. Last time up, he bounced into a 6-4-3 double play. Glavine has been walking the tightrope in just about every inning. He's only worked 3 innings through the first 6.
Blue Jays have stranded runners in scoring position 4 of the 6 innings. So they have had chances to blow this game open with 2-out base hits.
1-2 now on Gruber. It's the bottom third of the order. Gruber, Borders, and Lee against Glavine. Two and 2. Bobby Cox a moment ago managed to chuckle despite the situation. Breaking ball bounced foul. Still 2 and 2.
Situations like these, chuckles come through clenched teeth.
Kelly Gruber with some help last night from an old friend, Willie Upshaw, the former Blue Jay, who is serving as a minor league hitting instructor in the Toronto organization. Kelly said he got a couple of pointers from Upshaw before the game last night, helped him relax at the plate, and he thought they contributed to his home run. Gruber has battled all the way to a count of 3 and 2 for Cito Gaston. The payoff pitch to the leadoff batter is ball 4. The 4th walk thrown by Glavine. Tommy has only struck out 1 tonight, and that was rather 2 tonight. One of those was on the borderline pitch last inning to Maldonado. Gruber with decent speed. He's been slowed this season by injury. And Borders at the plate. He has accounted for the only run in this game with a leadoff home run in the 3rd. Borders punts toward first, a foul ball.
Damon Berryhill 1 for 13. He did have the 3-run homer in game 1. And Pat Borders 5 for 11. And he's bunting in this situation? No way. I think he either missed a sign, or if he was sacrificing, I think it's a wrong play. I mean, here's your hottest hitter, right-hander against a left-handed pitcher. You have the hammer. It's a 1-0 ball game. I think you go for the throat in this situation. You don't play add-on baseball.
And you have the number 9 hitter on deck in the ice-cold Manuel Lee, who's just 1 for 11 in the series with a 0 for 2 tonight.
Devon White is in the hold, and he is 2 for 3 tonight. But coming into this game, he was ice-cold. 1 for 13, so he's 3 for 16, even though he is 2 for 3 tonight. But I think that the odds are better if you swing away here. And of course, you have to now with the count 0-2.
Bottom of the 7th, 1-0 Toronto. The 0-2 pitch is just inside. The home run hit by Borders back in the 3rd was his first in 1992 off a left-handed pitcher. He hit 13 during the regular season, but amazingly, all of them were against right-handers. Pat Borders, a native of Lake Wales, Florida, at the plate with Kelly Gruber at first base and nobody out. Nixon was playing in left center. He has to drift to right center to make the catch. 1 out, and Gruber is back to first. Now Manuel Lee. He's 0 for 2. Has bounced to second and to third.
One thing Manuel Lee did this year, he cut down on his strikeouts. Last year, he became the only player in Major League history to have over 100 strikeouts with no home runs.
That's not a good combination.
No. It means your on-base percentage is way, way down. But he did have a much better year this year than he did last year with the bat.
Struck out only 73 times and hit 3 homers and hit for a respectable average of 263. Gruber on the move. Lee taps it back to the mound. Glavine has to go to first. Gruber went sliding into second base. Well, now his uniform matches his helmet.
Gruber on the hit and run, and all a manager can do for a hitter is try to give him a good pitch to hit. And Manuel Lee doing his imitation of Bruce Lee as he chops down on the high fastball. But really, that's all you can do is pick a pitcher who's always around the plate. Glavine has been like that, but the pitch was a little up. But Manuel Lee, on making the out, does push Gruber to second base.
So the Blue Jays have still another great chance to score as Glavine delivers to Devon White. Base hit left field. Gruber's being waved in. Gant with the throw to the plate. It is cut off. Throw to second. They have White in a rundown. The Blue Jays lead 2-0, and White is tagged out to end the inning. Gruber scores a big run on the 3rd hit of the night by Devon White.
This ball scooting through to the outfield, and Devon White shrewdly trying to go to second base, making Terry Pendleton cut the ball off.
Tomorrow on
TNA Thursday Night Impact. Mustafa Ali calls Order 4 into the Impact Zone for the State of the Order address. Moose collides with AJ Francis one-on-one. Harley Hudson clashes with NXT's Thea Hale. And M. Elegance faces off with Rosemary. The System's Bear Bronson battles the worldwide sensation Ricky Sosa. And the X Division Championship is up for grabs as Fabian Eichner challenges Cedric Alexander. Tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sportsnet 360.
Kelly Gruber still a bit sore. You can see the scrape on his chin as he went sliding head first into home plate with the second run of the night for Toronto.
Here is the play by Ron Gant, and what Devon White does, he makes Pendleton cut the ball off. Now you might say, well, Gruber would have been safe at home anyway, but Devon White was making sure by trading an out for a run. Good base running by White.
A ball and a strike on Ron Gant. He's flying to right into center. He's the leadoff man in the 8th inning. Brian Hunter and Damon Berryhill scheduled to follow against Key. And should Key falter, Toronto is to the part of the ball game where its bullpen specializes. Dwayne Ward, ordinarily the setup man for Tom Henke, and he's warming up with David Wells in the bullpen. Gant got a piece of it. 2-2 the count. Gruber has also been bothered by a sore neck lately, and looked like that was bothering him during the break between innings. The trainer did come out onto the field. Breaking ball hammered past Gruber into the left field corner. It was not touched by any fans down there, and Ron Gant breaks an 0 for 16 with a leadoff double. The first extra base hit of the night for Atlanta, and just the third for the Braves in the World Series.
A breaking ball hammered between Gruber and the bag. Kelly way off the bag, of course, with the 2-run lead. It's interesting, had they not gotten the lead to 2 runs to 2-0 with that run, Gruber probably would have been on the line and sucks that ball up.
Our report from the field is that Kelly Gruber just had the wind knocked out of him, nothing more than that. He's close to the line now with Hunter at the plate. Hunter drops down a good bunt. Everybody is safe. Gruber was along the line and very deep at third. And Hunter bunted the ball past Jimmy Key so that he had no chance at it. Now the tying run is at first base with nobody out.
You have an idea of where Kelly Gruber was. He was deep, as Sean said. Jimmy Key has no play. Gruber has no play. And Brian Hunter catching everybody by surprise. That is a terrific bunt by Hunter.
Jimmy Williams threw a slew of signs for Berryhill and the 2 runners. Berryhill has struck out and bounced back to the mound. Borders looking into the dugout for help. We're in the 8th inning. Toronto leads 2-0. Berryhill pops up a bunt. Borders fields it in foul ground for the first out. Well, with Berryhill struggling, they were trying to get that tying run into scoring position, but it backfired as he popped up the bunt.
I think the key word is struggling there. As a right-handed batter, Berryhill has not done well during the series. He elects to bunt, and the problem that Bobby Cox has, he can't pinch hit for Berryhill unless you want to go to a guy like Francisco Cabrera. If it's a 9th inning, that may be what he would have done. But it's the 8th inning, and they still need defense, but more than that, they need runs. Often, or more often than not, you do not play for a tie on the road. It's hard to tell whether Berryhill was bunting for a base hit or bunting just to push Hunter to second base.
Lemke lances it off Key. Charged by Gruber. He throws to first in time to get Lemke. Gant scores from third with the first Atlanta run of the night. It's 2-1, and the tying run is in scoring position now with 2 outs. as Brian Hunter moved up to second base.
And what a play by Kelly Gruber. Great reactions. Watch the ball hammered off Key's right foot, it appeared. Yep, right off the right arm. Now watch Gruber barehand the ball to make the only play he could to get Lemke by a step. Boy, that is a terrific reaction by Kelly Gruber.
As we mentioned last night, Cito Gaston thinks he might be the best defensive third baseman in all of Major League Baseball. He's played well in the field all year despite his season-long hitting problems. This will mark the end of the outing for Jimmy Key. The call has already been sent out for Dwayne Ward. Key, a longtime Blue Jay and one of their most popular players, and already they're on their feet for Jimmy Key as he gets ready to depart. We'll be back in just a moment. On tape moments ago, Jimmy Key departing to a roaring ovation here at the Sky Dome. He's been a member of the Blue Jays since 1984. Bypassed as a starter in the League Championship Series. Given a start here in the World Series when Cito Gaston decided to forego a three-man rotation. Boy, did he make that look like a smart move.
And his favorite big league manager ever, Bobby Cox, now the manager of the Braves. Dwayne Ward in there. He has won the 2 games that the Blue Jays have won in this series.
The last 2 games, Ward has been the winning pitcher. Greeted by Otis Nixon. The first pitch, a fastball for a strike, with Nixon up there batting left-handed. And with a tying run at second base, the outfield is very shallow.
It's going to be very tough for Brian Hunter to score on a ball hit sharply at an outfielder. So if you're the runner at second, you have to cheat somewhere. So you have to get a better lead than you normally would.
2-1 Toronto in the 8th inning. The Braves scored their first run of the night here in the 8th to knock Jimmy Key out. 1-1 the count on Nixon, who is 2 for 3 tonight. He came into the ball game 1 for 12 in the World Series. Dwayne Ward, a former Atlanta Brave. The 1-1 pitch. Late swing by Nixon. Brian Hunter, the runner at second with 2 down. The 1-2 pitch by Ward, fouled away. In winning the last 2 games, Dwayne Ward, the first pitcher since Raleigh Eastwick in 1975 to win consecutive World Series games. Eastwick did it for the Cincinnati Reds against the Red Sox. Another 1-2 pitch, fouled away. Took a moment for many in the house to realize that Nixon got a piece of that ball.
And Brian Hunter, when Nixon made contact with the ball, Hunter was more than halfway to third base. With 2 outs and 2 strikes, the runner at second base on contact just takes off.
Toronto, top of the 8th inning. That is strike 3, and it gets away from Borders. It's up onto the screen. So Nixon is safe at first on the strikeout, and Brian Hunter is moved to third. A tremendous break for the Atlanta Braves. Nixon struck out. It should have been the end of the inning, but Borders couldn't play it.
Well, earlier we went back to 1941. We saw Mickey Owen of the Brooklyn Dodgers on a pass ball with Hendricks the batter. And that won it for the Yankees that year, and he never lived it down. There it is 51 years later. And there is a strikeout and a ball that gets by Borders. Looked like a splitter from Ward. And now not only do you have a runner at third, but you have speed at first base in the person of Otis Nixon.
It's a strikeout for Ward. He's also charged with a wild pitch. Jeff Blauser at the plate. 1 for 3 tonight, a single back in the first inning. Nixon takes off. The pitch is a ball. Borders ignores Otis Nixon, who goes to second with a stolen base.
When you think about a pinch hitter in a situation like this, Jeff Blauser has really been struggling. Otis Nixon steals the base easily, but you have Deion Sanders on the bench, and he was 3 for 4 in last night's game.
And Sid Bream, another possibility, hitting .375 in the series.
Yep.
They do have the left-hander Wells throwing in the bullpen. That's down the line. Olerud to Anita, play it and end the inning. The Braves leave 2 men in scoring position. On to the bottom of the 8th at the Ruckus Skydome. 2-1 Toronto.
There's nothing. We have Bounty. It's 50% more absorbent, so you can use less. And one sheet holds up better while ordinary brands fall apart.
It's gone.
Get more done with one. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. For a smoother, smarter, simpler season, a higher quality harvest, everything Case IH makes is purposefully designed to work on your farm. We don't just build our equipment to work. We build it to work for you. Case IH, built by farmers.
Sandra puts her trust in Intact Insurance. Luke and Ella's school does too. So does Samara's electrical company. And that's just one neighborhood. Intact goes the extra mile to protect over 6 million cars, homes, and businesses.
Still waiting to figure this out? End the waiting game. Felix connects you with a doctor online, so you can get a weight loss treatment plan that's right for you. Get started for free at felix.ca. Felix, we'll see you now.
Pizza 73 presents Pump Relief Pizza. Every time gas goes up, we'll make pizza go down. Turn your gas guzzling into pizza guzzling with a Pump Relief Pizza, starting at $21.99, and unlike gas, the price will go down.
The Toronto Skydome, the first retractable dome anywhere.
On part 2 of The Blue Jays Way, a new era begins with heightened expectations.
We knew we just had to have that one something to get over that hump and make it to the World Series.
And a shocking twist.
You're not serious. We're going to start with Freddie McGriff for Joe Carter?
Come on.
What is this setting up for?
The Blue Jays Way, this Sunday after the game, only on Sportsnet, or stream it on Sportsnet Plus.
Tom Hinkie with 1 save in this series. In postseason play, he's 2-0 with 3 saves. He had 34 on the season. Dwayne Ward, whom he replaced, had 12. So 46 saves but between the Hinkie-Ward tandem this season for the Blue Jays.
Hinkie on to protect a 1-run lead in the 9th inning. Facing batters 3, 4, and 5 for Atlanta. Pendleton, Smith, and Justice. Terry Pendleton 0 for 3 tonight. He's 3 for 15 in the World Series. The Blue Jays are guarding each line. And Hinkie's first pitch is a fork ball for ball 1.
Terry Pendleton seeking some revenge. You may remember Sunday night's game after Deion Sanders and that terrific at bat had walked. Terry Pendleton made the last out against Tom Hinkie with the tying run on second base.
Pendleton taking all the way on 2-0. It's 2-1. fastball fouled out of play. Now it's 2-2. In winning games 2 and 3, the Blue Jays made World Series history. It was the first time in World Series play that a team has come back to win 2 consecutive games in which they trailed in the 8th inning or later. Now the Braves trying to turn the tables on the Blue Jays tonight. The 2-2 pitch. He struck him out.
The splitter on the 2-2 count. That ball, the bottom falling out of it. And Terry Pendleton, who normally is tough to strike out, goes down. The hands of a hinky sinker. That split finger fastball.
Lonnie Smith. Ball 1 just missed. Smith is 0 for 3 with the strikeout by Pendleton. Batters 3, 4, and 5 in the Atlanta lineup tonight. A combined 0 for 10. Not a good-looking swing. He tried to check it but couldn't.
I think Lonnie tried to lure Hinkie into thinking that he was going to take a strike. He took a very close pitch and now goes after a ball in the dirt.
1 out and the bases empty in the top of the 9th. Toronto leads 2-1. The 1-1 to Smith. Bounce foul, and now it's 1-2. The 1-2 pitch. Bounce back to the mound. Hinkie stumbled a bit, but threw him out. Two down in the 9th.
Hinkie falls to the first base side, recovers, and throws out Smith.
And the slide did not help to speed Lonnie Smith up on his trip toward first base. The Braves down to their final out in game 4. David Justice is 0 for 3. Ball 1 low and away. They do have the shift on this time for Justice.
And the outfield very, very deep to protect against the double. Joe Carter in right field near the track.
Justice with a high fly ball, not very deep. Maldonado is there. The Blue Jays win, and they lead the World Series 3-1. Tom Hinkie saves it for Jimmy Key as the Blue Jays win game 4 by a final score of 2-1. So tonight, Toronto has its second chance to wrap up the series, and they turn to David Cone. When they acquired him from the Mets in late August, it was with this game really in mind. They thought he was the man who could put them over the hump in their quest for their first world champion.
And how do the Atlanta Braves beat him? They are patient at the plate and aggressive on the bases. Control problems for David Cone and look for the Braves to run and run a lot.
He'll be opposed tonight by Steve Avery, and here is our Jim Cox.
Thanks, Sean. Steve Avery in Game 3 had probably the best curveball he's had in a long time. And the challenge when you face the same lineup 4 days later is if you don't have that same stuff, plan B. You might see him throw a few more changeups and fastballs. Blue Jays are good fastball hitters.
Thank you, Jim. Steve Avery getting ready to go to work against the Toronto lineup that has Devon White leading off in center field. Roberto Alomar at second base, batting third, and at first base again tonight, Joe Carter. The cleanup hitter, right fielder Dave Winfield. Candy Maldonado gets the start in left field. Kelly Gruber bats sixth at third base. The catcher is Pat Borders batting seventh. The shortstop Manuel Lee hits eighth, and batting ninth, the pitcher David Cone. And they're on the feet all over the ballpark as this one is about to begin. Game 6 of the 1992 World Series, and Devon White will get it started. He's 4 for 21. And here's the first pitch of the night from Steve Avery. Fastball high and away, and we're underway. White has 4 hits in the World Series, but 3 of them came in Game 4. Line to left, and it falls in for a hit in front of Deion Sanders. So Devon White takes the second pitch of the night into left, and he's aboard with nobody out in the top of the first. 1-0 on Alomar, who's just 2 for 18 in the series, and 0 for his last 6. Avery to first. White stole 37 bases during the regular season, was only thrown out 4 times, but in the playoffs against Oakland, he was 0 for 4 in attempting to steal. And he has not attempted a stolen base in the World Series, in large part because he hasn't been on. He's off with this pitch. Berryhill's throw, much too late. And Devon White has his first stolen base of the postseason. Those were Alomar's numbers during the regular season. He was 4th in the major leagues and 3rd in the American League with runners in scoring position. Good job of hitting. You can see Alomar make the effort to slap the ball to the right side to move White to third with 1 out. That'll bring up Joe Carter. Carter has more runs batted in than any player in baseball over the last 7 years. And only has 2 runs batted in this series, in large part because White and Alomar haven't been on base ahead of him. 3 balls and a strike. Carter will be followed by Dave Winfield. Now the 3-1 pitch. Line toward the gap in right center. Justice on the run. Can't play it. It's off his glove and behind him. White on to score. Carter into second, and the Blue Jays lead 1-0.
I wonder if he lost that ball in the lights. It appeared that he was drawing a bead on it. And then at the last minute, something happened. See, I think he lost that ball in the lights. I believe the ball hit the end of his glove. And it's going to be scored a double for Joe Carter, but that ball should have, at least it could have been caught. I think he lost the ball in the lights.
Carter not charged with a time at bat. He is given credit for a sacrifice fly and an RBI, and he reaches on the error. He's at second with 1 out.
He has never had an extra base hit in the World Series.
And he walks on 4 pitches. Not the worst thing that could have happened for Steve Avery with first base open, already behind in the count to Winfield. Now they set up the double play possibility. Maldonado only 1 for 13 in the World Series, but his 1 hit was the game-winning hit in the 9th inning of Game 3. Softly hit toward short. Lauser to Lemke for the out on Winfield, the second out of the inning. Carter takes third on the play. Now the 6th batter of the first inning, Kelly Gruber, with Toronto leading 1-0. He's 1 for 15 in the World Series. His 1 hit, a home run off Steve Avery. You hear the boos for Gruber. That dates back to Game 2 when he caught the pop-up for the final out of the ball game and then did the tomahawk chop. And the fans roar with a bit more vigor as Gruber takes the called strike 1. To short, Blauser bobbles, but recovers in time to force Maldonado and end the inning. 1 run in the first for the Blue Jays after half an inning. Toronto 1 and Atlanta coming up. Center fielder Otis Nixon leads off for the Atlanta Braves tonight, batting second. In left field, Deion Sanders. Terry Pendleton, the third baseman, hits third. The cleanup hitter, right fielder David Justice. Batting fifth at first base, Sid Bream. The shortstop, Jeff Blauser, hits sixth. Catching and batting seventh, Damon Berryhill. The second baseman, Mark Lemke, bats eighth. And hitting ninth, the pitcher, Steve Avery. Cone making his second appearance in this World Series. He had no decision in Game 2. The come from behind win for the Blue Jays on Ed Sprague's home run. Control trouble plagued Cone in Game 2. He walked 5 in 4 1/3 innings. The Braves coming up for the first time tonight, trailing 1-0, and Otis Nixon leads off. Otis 6 for 21 in the World Series, and particularly hot of late. He's 5 for his last 9. He was 2 for 4 in Game 4 and 3 for 5 in Game 5. And Gruber in on the grass at third, respecting the bunt possibility. First pitch of the night from David Cone. Fastball high for ball 1.
David Cone's only loss to the Braves in this ballpark back on April 30th, 1990. 4-1 in this park.
Chopped to short to Manuel Lee. 1 out.
One and one in the league championship series. And then he worked 4 1/3 innings in Game 2 and walked 5. It is very, very important for David Cone to throw strikes. He walked more this year than he ever has, 111 during the regular season.
Deion Sanders hitting an even 500 in the World Series, 6 for 12. He went 1 for 3 against Cone in Game 2 and is now 7 for 12 lifetime against him. Carter waves off Cone, 2 down. In the bottom of the first, the Blue Jays lead 1-0. This is the 46th World Series game, postseason game rather, for Terry Pendleton. He's 5 for 21 in the World Series. 2 of those hits came in the last game, Game 5. Tomahawked into right center. That's a base hit. So the Braves have their first base runner with 2 outs in the bottom of the first. Steve Avery allowed 1 earned run. It was an earned run charged to Avery in the top of the first, and now he's looking on as his teammates bat in the bottom of the first with 2 outs and a runner at first and a fly ball into shallow right center. Manuel Lee, the shortstop, who was shifted over to the right side of the infield, made the play to end the inning. After 1 in Game 6, the Blue Jays lead 1-0.
Otis Nixon leads off an inning for the Braves. He's their most important guy in the lineup. He's not with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position.
Chopped up the middle. Lee, nice play to his left for the first out of the inning. Now Deion Sanders, who bounced to the first baseman Carter, unassisted his first time up. Well hit down the line off. It's Deion's 4th stolen base in the World Series in as many tries. Game 2. Now the infield is in with a tying run at third and 1 out. The 2-1 pitch hit more than deep enough to get the run in as Devon White retreats to the front of the warning track. Sanders limps home from third. We're tied at 1. The Braves with 1 run in the third to tie it. After 3, 1-1 the score. First pitch of the fourth, the ball to Candy Maldonado.
Maldonado bounced into a force out with 2 on back in the first inning. Pitch to Candy. Swing, long drive, deep left center field. Back goes Deion Sanders. He's at the wall, looks up, and yes, sir, there she goes. Candy Maldonado has just hit a mammoth home run to break this 1-1 tie in the fourth inning. And the Blue Jays go out in front 2-1 on Maldonado's first World Series home run. And the Atlanta fans throw the ball back to the infield. They want no part of that. Maldonado will trot back to the third base dugout. Derek Bell is the first one to greet him.
That was the 16th home run of the postseason for the Toronto Blue Jays. Ties a record shared by the 1970 Orioles and the 1989 Athletics. Gruber to short. Blauser to first to get Gruber by a running step. 1 out in the fourth. He's on the short end of a 2-1 score at the moment. Down the line, Pendleton couldn't glove it. Borders rounds first. He'll try for 2. Sanders with the throw over the head of Lemke and backed up by Bream to keep Borders at second. Borders at second, 1 out. 1 run in here in the fourth for the Blue Jays. They lead 2-1. Payoff pitch to Lee. Check swing, strike 3, says John Shulock. And Lee is 0 for his last 11. We talked about the difficulty sometimes for pitchers to throw strikes to pitchers at the plate. And that's the problem confronting Avery at the moment. You saw how shallow Nixon and Sanders were in left and center. They pulled way over toward left. Sanders almost on the line. Cone walks on 4 pitches. The runner at second is Pat Borders. At first, David Cone. The 1-0 pitch. Line to left to hit. Sanders plays it. Borders being waved in. The throw to the plate, and he is out at home. Sanders' throw was right on the money to cut down the runner and end the inning.
The ball was hit hard. Sanders charges it. Borders is not a fast runner. And you see Berryhill off with the mask. And a quick tag nails his counterpart.
Dwayne Ward on in relief for Toronto. The Blue Jays 6 outs away from their first World Championship. Ward will face Ron Gant, who was at the plate when Nixon was thrown out trying to steal, ending the 7th. Then Terry Pendleton and David Justice, batters 2, 3, and 4. The hard-throwing right-hander misses inside with ball 1.
Dwayne Ward has won 2 of the 3 games that Toronto has won. He has struck out 5. He has walked no one, allowing only 1 hit in 2 1/3 innings.
Gant to right, sinking fast. Winfield. Did he catch it? Yes, he did. Great tumbling catch by Dave Winfield in right for the first out of the 8th inning. 2-2 pitch. He struck him out. The foul tip squeezed by Borders for the second out of the 8th. And they're hanging on every pitch. Some 40,000 gathered at the Sky Dome in Toronto tonight to watch on the Jumbotron scoreboard in center field. Atlanta has had only 2 hits since the 3rd. They've had only 4 base runners since the 3rd. Todd Stottlemyre, Derek Bell, and Ed Sprague left to right. Lonnie Smith, Game 5 hero. Ball 4. The tying run is aboard. with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th. Toronto with 2 outs and a runner at first. In the bottom of the 8th, Sid Bream, the batter. He looked at a fastball for a strike. Sid has walked twice tonight and flied to left. Bear in mind the fact we mentioned earlier, Sid Bream has never driven in a run in World Series competition. Tonight is his 12th World Series start, and that's a fly ball to left, not deep. Maldonado makes the catch. The Toronto Blue Jays 3 outs away from the World Championship, and they love it at Skydome. On to the 9th, 2-1 Blue Jays. The top of the order coming up for the Jays in the 9th. Devon White, 2 for 4 with singles in the first and 4th. He scored in the first inning. Roberto Alomar and Joe Carter to follow against Mike Stanton, who's pitched 1 scoreless inning. Line and caught. Lemke ranging to his left, put it away for the first out of the 9th. Roberto Alomar, the batter. He swings at the first pitch. Seems like the Blue Jays are anxious to get to the bottom of the 9th and take their chances with a 1-run lead.
I was thinking the same thing, even though White and Alomar hit their balls fairly well. Sometimes you're so consumed with getting there to end it, you fail to concentrate on scoring another insurance run or 2.
Base hit, fair ball into the left field corner. Carter on his way to second with his second double of the night. It's going to knock Mike Stanton out of the ball game. Mark Wohlers will be the new pitcher. The Blue Jays with a win tonight wrap up the World Series, and they lead 2-1 with 2 outs and Joe Carter at second in the top of the 9th inning. Mark Wohlers on in relief to pitch to Dave Winfield. Wohlers throws very hard in the playoffs against Pittsburgh. They had him on the radar gun at 100 miles per hour. Oh, 0-2 with 2 outs and Carter at second. 2-1 Toronto in the 9th inning. Bounced up the middle. Blauser throws him out. The Blue Jays have left 11. We go to the bottom of the 9th. Blauser, Berryhill, and Lemke do. The Blue Jays 3 outs away from the World Championship.
Game 7 of the National League Championship Series, 2-1 Pittsburgh.
Francisco Cabrera, who has not appeared in the World Series, with a 2-run single with 2 outs in the 9th, to put the Braves into the World Series. They'll need another rally of that type in the 9th to force a Game 7. They're down 2-1 and batting against Tom Henke.
It's not surprising that Henke is in there, but it is surprising that John Olerud is not at first for defense and that Joe Carter's not in right. That's your best defensive alignment, and Cito Gaston has opted not to use it.
Reminiscent of 1986 when John McNamara left Bill Buckner in. Buckner made the error. The Red Sox never won the championship. Blauser through the hole. Gruber was playing the line. And the tying run is aboard with nobody out in the bottom of the 9th. Jeff Blauser 2 for 4 tonight.
Damon Berryhill with no sacrifices all year, and he'll be sacrificing here, at least trying to.
Berryhill has only sacrificed 7 times in his entire career. That's a good bunt. Henke has to go to first to Alomar covering. It's a sacrifice for the first out of the bottom of the 9th. Now the tying run is in scoring position. A tremendous roar as Smith is introduced. He was the hero of Game 5.
And once again, the wild pitch could play a part. Hinkie, to be effective, has to keep it down.
First pitch, a strike over the outside corner at the knees. A one-strike pitch. Fouled away, and Smith is in the hole, 0-2. Smith at the plate with rally caps and evidence in the Atlanta dugout. One out, Jeff Blauser, the tying run at second. Now the 0-2 pitch. Just missed. Hinkie took something off it and missed inside. In the dirt, blocked by Borders. It scooted through his legs, and he was able to squeeze it before it got behind him. Payoff pitch, fouled straight back.
That was hittable. Hinkie has made some very difficult pitches against Smith, and now Borders wants to talk. You don't want to try him on another pitch like that. That ball was hittable.
The 8th pitch of the at-bat is ball 4.
Talk about a gutty at-bat by Lonnie Smith.
So the winning run is at first, and the man who produced the miracle 10 days ago will step into the spotlight again. He'll have to wait as Galen Cisco goes to the mound. To talk about how they will pitch to Francisco Cabrera. First pitch to Cabrera, a ball low and away. Francisco was traded to Atlanta in August of 1984 by the Blue Jays. Tom Hinkie, Toronto's all-time save leader, trying to record the biggest save of his career in what could be his last game in a Toronto uniform. He's a free agent at the end of the year. The 1-1 to Cabrera. Ball 2. Cabrera at the plate. Otis Nixon on deck. The 2-1. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Steve Avery, the starting pitcher for Atlanta tonight. He would be the losing pitcher if the score remains this way. The 2-2 to Cabrera. Back to the screen again. To left field. Maldonado made the catch. He started in and then it almost went over his head. Cabrera hit a rising line drive. Maldonado came in, then had to leap at the last moment to snare it. Otis Nixon, the batter. 2 outs, bottom of the 9th. Runners at first and second. The Blue Jays lead 2-1. Swing and a miss by Nixon for strike 1. He's 1 for 4 tonight. He singled his last time up.
2 outs, a runner at second base and first base. Infielders reminded to knock the ball down if they can't make a play to save the run.
Nixon digs in. Hinkie sets, fires, fastball strike on the inside corner. The Atlanta Braves baseball season and the Blue Jays baseball season have come down to one final strike. Can he keep it alive? Do the Blue Jays win it? That's the question. We're all hanging on to find the answer to it. Henke to the belt. The pitch. A swing and a grounder through the left side base hit. Here comes the runner. Here comes the throw. It's high. Going over the backstop. Waters up with it. Oh, the pitcher, Henke, covering up with it. And the run scores to tie the ball game. The ball game is tied. Otis Nixon with a base hit to left field. The Braves, down to their final strike, stay alive.
Ron Gant, the hitter. He entered the ball game as a pinch hitter and line to right. He had a hit taken away from him on a nice tumbling catch by Dave Winfield. The last inning. Pulled way foul and out of play. One strike on Gant. This is certainly a great chance for Gant to erase his memories of the 1992 postseason. They have not been pleasant. In the World Series, he's 1 for 7. The 1-1 pitch, blocked by Borders. He has to block everything with the winning run on third base. Smith, the runner at third. The 2-1 pitch. Way outside. Gant will be followed by Terry Pendleton should Gant reach.
So therefore, no chance that Henke is pitching around Ron Gant.
Now the 3-1 pitch. Popped foul straight back and out of play. Henke with the payoff pitch to Gant. Fly ball, left center. Devon White is there to make the catch and send the ball game into extra innings. 1 run for the Braves in the ninth. 2-2 the score as we head for the 10th inning.
Charlie Lebrandt's first appearance in the World Series. The last time that he appeared in a World Series was Game 6 of last year when Kirby Puckett hit a home run in extra innings to win Game 6 for the Minnesota Twins. I have never seen a more disconsolate player than Charlie Lebrandt was after that game.
Candy Maldonado, Kelly Gruber, and Pat Borders to bat for Toronto in the 10th. The Blue Jays were 1 strike away from the World Championship. Now they'll have to go to extra innings to earn it. The 1-2 pitch to short. Played nicely on a hop by Blauser. 1 out in the 10th.
Lebrandt, a performer in postseason play in 1985. Member of a World Championship team that year with the Kansas City Royals.
And he was the winning pitcher in Game 7 of the playoffs that year when Kansas City finished off its comeback from 3 games to 1 down to beat the Toronto Blue Jays. Kelly Gruber lines a base hit into center field. So the Blue Jays have the go-ahead run aboard with 1 out. Gruber has just his second hit of the World Series. Leibrandt to the plate. Borders with a fly ball. Ron Gannon left. 2 down. Manuel Lee was the scheduled hitter. Tabler 5 for 14 lifetime against Leibrandt, including a home run. Gruber back to first. Pendleton, Justice, and Bream, the scheduled trio of Braves swingers in the bottom of the 10th. Leibrandt to the plate with the 1-1 pitch. Check swing. Leibrandt has it. On to the bottom of the 10th. 2-2 the score. Tom Henke victimized for the game-tying run, facing Pendleton, who's 1 for 3 with a first-inning single. They got a sacrifice fly for an RBI in the third. He's struck out twice since then. Strike on the outside corner. 1-1 on Pendleton. Alfredo Griffin is the new shortstop for Toronto. Again, the Blue Jays are guarding the lines. It didn't pay off when Jeff Blauser bounced the leadoff single through last inning and scored the tying run. It pays off this time as Carter was perfectly positioned for Pendleton. 1 out in the bottom of the 10th.
And that looks like it's going to be all for Tom Henke.
It will indeed. Jimmy Key trots in to become the new Toronto hurler.
Tell you, statistically, you might question this move because David Justice unusually is a much better career hitter against left-handers than he is right-handers.
49 points better. Big swing and a miss for strike 1. Through Key, but Griffin is playing him perfectly. The shift pays off for Toronto. The shortstop on the right side of the infield, and the ball came right to Alfredo Griffin for the second out of the 10th. Sid Bream 0 for 2 tonight with 2 fly balls to left. He has also walked twice. Jimmy Key was murder on lefties during the regular season. He held them to a 176 batting average and only 2 home runs. Only Mark Langston fared better against left-handed hitters among all left-handed starters in baseball. Chopped down to first. Carter flips to Key, and the Braves go in order in the bottom of the 10th. We had the 11th. The Blue Jays coming up in a 2-2 ball game.
How about this? Jimmy Key's going to hit for himself. So it looks like Cito Gaston has determined that Jimmy Key, for the most part, is a starting pitcher in this role. At least until the next time the pitcher hits.
He had a career 300 average for the Clemson Tigers. A pop-up. Bream has it. Devon White, the hitter. 0-1 on White. He's 2 for 5 tonight. Singles in the first and fourth innings. He scored a run way back in the first. Roberto Alomar is on deck. It hit him. The crowd thought John Shulock was calling him out on strikes. Instead, he was indicating that the ball brushed Devon White, and he has first base with 1 out. He's at first and a threat to run with Roberto Alomar up. Leibrandt goes to first. Devon White stole his first stolen base of the World Series back in the first inning. It set up the run he scored in the first. Alomar 2 for 5. The Blue Jays have, I'm sorry, Tim, the Blue Jays have had a hit in every inning tonight except this, the 11th. To the plate and lined into center field, a hit. White to second, and he'll stop there. Roberto Alomar with 3 hits tonight. He started the night with only 2 hits in this series.
Tough decision right here.
Made particularly tough by Reardon's failures in this series.
Well, if you're not going to bring Reardon in this situation, why is he warming up?
That's the question that I was going to pose to you. Joe Carter will face Lee Brandt. One strike on Carter, who has 2 hits tonight, a pair of doubles. Joe Carter had a sacrifice fly back in the first inning. Well hit, but well fouled.
Marvin Freeman, Reardon, Need. One would think that they would go to those 3 right-handers before Smoltz gets a call.
Only Reardon throwing at the moment, and he's ready. Bobby Cox has made the decision to stick with the lefty Lee Brandt to face Carter. The runners take off. Carter lifts one to center, not deep. Devon White jogs back to second as Nixon makes the catch for the second out. We're in the 11th, 2-2 the score. Bobby Cox aware of all of the stats, and he knows that Dave Winfield is a .302 lifetime hitter against Charlie Lee Brandt, including 4 home runs in 53 at-bats against Lee Brandt. Tonight, Winfield's 0 for 4 with a first inning walk, and now he's 4 for 21 in the series.
Winfield, a very good off-speed hitter. You can understand why Winfield hits Lee Brandt well. Lee Brandt is not a hard thrower. He relies on his changeup. Winfield will get either the fastball or the changeup. Lee Brandt does have a curveball, but you don't want to throw anything but your best in this situation.
Changeup for a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. In the dirt, blocked by Berryhill. 2 balls and a strike.
Winfield with runners in scoring position, 1 for 7. He's 0 for 3 tonight. And you mentioned Winfield trying to erase past World Series. That's what Charlie Lee Brandt's trying to do too.
But they've left 12 men on base, had a runner thrown out at the plate, and hit into a double play. And now Lee Brandt is even with Winfield at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two the score with 2 men on, 2 outs, and a count of 2-2. In the 11th inning of Game 6 of the World Series. 2-2 pitch. Just missed, low and away, and the count is full. And now the runners will get the jump with the 3-2 pitch upcoming and 2 outs.
2-2 the score in the Toronto top of the 11th. Lee Brandt ready at the waist. The runners go. 3-2 pitch and a ground ball hit over third. A base hit down the line. White scores. It's picked up and bobbled by Gant. He dropped the ball in the corner. Alomar scores on a Dave Winfield 2-base hit. His first extra base hit in World Series history. And the Blue Jays go out in front 4-2 here in the top of the 11th inning. Terry Pendleton was not guarding the line. We had just mentioned that, and Winfield on a 3-2 pitch slashed one on the ground over third by Pendleton for his now most famous extra base hit in Dave Winfield's career.
Winfield had come to the plate 44 times in World Series play without an extra base hit before that one. A 2-run double driving in Devon White and Roberto Alomar, and the Blue Jays are ahead again 4-2. The base hit by Winfield, the 14th Blue Jay hit of the night. He's in scoring position for Candy Maldonado.
And we might add that that is exactly what Winfield hit.
The 2-2 pitch. Popped up. Rafael Belliard on the outfield grass ends the inning. But the Blue Jays get 2 huge runs on Dave Winfield's first ever extra base hit in the World Series. They're 3 outs away again, and will return after this word from your local station. They're ready in Toronto to have the biggest party that city has ever seen. Jimmy Key with a chance to earn his 2nd win of the series, and who would have thought that when this ball game began. Facing Jeff Blauser. Line to left. Here we go again. Blauser started the 9th with a base hit and scored the game-tying run. He starts the 11th with a base hit. That'll bring the tying run to the plate.
Talk about an uphill battle. Damon Berryhill is not a strong hitter from the right side of the plate. Rafael Belliard is on deck. He is not a strong offensive hitter. But if Berryhill can get on, then Belliard will be allowed to bunt him over.
Up the middle. Bad hop, and Griffin couldn't glove it. Blauser continues to third. He'll get there without a throw. Had he fielded it, it was a perfect double play ball with Berryhill running, but it bounced up at the last moment. Griffin couldn't handle it. Now the tying run is aboard at first base. John Smoltz running for Damon Berryhill with nobody out. It is an error charged to Griffin, the first Toronto error of the night. Rafael Belliard with his first at bat in this World Series. Appearing in his 4th game. Prior to tonight, he has come in for defense. He does bunt toward first, and it's a foul ball.
If you remember in that NLCS Game 7, 9th inning, Jose Lind, the sure-handed second baseman of the Pirates, made an error that led to a run when the Braves scored 3 times in the bottom of the 9th to win it.
Belliard hit just .211 during the regular season. He squares to bunt again. This time it's in play. The runner holds at third. Key to Alomar covering for the first out. But now the tying run is in scoring position. Blauser still at third. Smoltz has moved up to second. Brian Hunter hitting .250 in the World Series. He's 1 for 4. His one hit a single. He drove in a run with a sacrifice fly earlier in this series. Key's first pitch, a ball to Hunter. Hunter was 1 for 3 against Jimmy Key in Game 4. That one hit was a bunt single. Off the end of the bat down to first. Carter makes the play for the second out. A run scores. It's 4-3 Toronto. And now the tying run is at third base. But the Braves are again down to their final out. And again it will be Otis Nixon, who singled with 2 outs and 2 strikes the count in the bottom of the 9th to drive in the game-tying run. It was Jeff Blauser who made it 2-2 when we went 2 extra innings.
Mancito Gaston wants to talk to Jimmy Key. It is doubtful that he will take him out of the game. I think he wants to remind the corners, Joe Carter and Kelly Gruber and Jimmy Key, the pitcher, that Nixon will bunt. That's what makes Nixon, as a batter, with a runner on third and 2 outs, most dangerous because of the possibility of the bunt or the infield hit. John Smoltz represents the tying run. Well, we're going to go to the right-hander.
Mike Timlin will be the new pitcher for Toronto.
A lot of things run through a manager's mind here. Otis Nixon, as a left-handed batter, gets down to first a lot quicker than he does from the right side. He's a better bunter as a left-handed batter. If a ball is hit to an infielder, they better hurry.
Well, again, the Braves are down to their last out. But the tying run is 90 feet away. 4-3 Blue Jays. The pitch to Nixon, a swing and a foul off. Strike one. Fouls it into the seats over on the left side. Otis Nixon grounded out to short in the first, grounded out to short in the third, popped up to short in the fifth. Base hits in the seventh and the ninth. Timlin to the belt. Pitch on the way, and there's a bunted ball. First base side, Timlin to Carter, and the Blue Jays win it. The Blue Jays win it. The Blue Jays are World Series champions. They come pouring out of the dugout, and they are mobbing Carter, and they go down in one big collective heap over by the first base bag here. A big pile-up. Somebody on the bottom might be hurt in all of that. The Blue Jays have won the World Series. So Canada, let it all out. It's party time. It was a long time coming, but it's here.
My thoughts are for the guys in this clubhouse. My thoughts are for the organization. My thoughts are for the fans of Toronto. 45,000 people sitting there tonight watching the game on the Sky Dome, Sky Vision. I mean, like, it's outstanding. I mean, this is really a tremendous evening for everybody in the organization, but most importantly for Cito. He brought the team here. It's his. I pass it on to him. Cito, congratulations.
All right, Cito, you said when you won the American League Championship Series, you didn't know if you'd be able to speak. Can you give us a word right now?
Well, maybe a couple of words. It's been a long, hard battle, but as I said, opening day, these guys have been focused since opening day, and if I could open my shirt, you would see it says 3 for 3. All right. And we did it. Thank you.
3 for 3 in '92. The Blue Jays won the East. They won the American League Championship Series, and they won the World Championship.